Just a couple of guys, a couple of microphones, and a heck of a lot of know. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome once again to another episode of Football on the Know. I am Jim McPhee. We got Cody Cook in the corner, and alongside of me is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, know-it-alls? Welcome back for another edition. I know it's been a while, but yes, we are back again for the next season.
Season 6.
Season 6.
It is here.
Suck it. That's right. Football on the Know Show. We are here live and ready to go. Drop comments down below. If you have any questions for us, please drop them down below. And we'll get to them. We'll respond to you. We'll give you a shout out and everything. Also, if you're new to the show, please do us a favor and head over to YouTube. Search us up, Football on the Know Show. Hit that subscribe button down below, just like that. Like the video, share the video to all your peoples, and let's make this thing grow.
Absolutely. We had a lot of fun on our little vacation and stuff, Joe, but it was a nice little bit of a vacay. But we're ready. We were just chomping at the bit to be able to talk about the stuff that's been going on because free agency hitting the news quick and hard. And yeah, how about the 2-day early legal tampering and everything, right? I mean, that was pretty interesting to be able to hear things happen right away. But it almost seemed instantaneously once we hit the offseason, things started rolling.
It's funny because they talk about this legal tampering window, but really the contracts get done before this even gets here.
Yeah.
There was a story that I overheard Rich Gannon talk about in his free agency when he was a Chief. And Tom Condon, his agent at the time, was negotiating a contract via phone with the Raiders, and they had a deal done before the window even got here. And he calls up Rich and says, "Rich, get on a plane tomorrow morning." He goes, "Wait, what? Why?" He's like, "Because we got a deal done with Oakland." And he's like, "Huh?" So the player didn't even know that was happening.
Oh, wow.
And it was already agreed upon, already done. And then he ends up, as soon as 12:01, they announced the deal. And then that's history. And we've seen this happen before. We've seen it happen before with Albert Hainsworth, one of the most notorious D tackles for free agency, and he had the same kind of thing. The contract got agreed before the window even opened. 12:01, they announce it. So it's like the NFL isn't stupid. They know this is happening.
They can't, 1 minute.
But they can't prevent it because it's not against the rules. Nothing in the rules says that a team can't contact an agent. You can't contact a player. But an agent, totally different.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's get started first with the quarterbacks out there. That's probably been the major talk of things going on, or the biggest shakeup, at least, with some of these teams.
Yes, sir.
Again, we heard about the issues with the Raiders before and Derek Carr and stuff, wanting to let go with him, and then so then he officially becomes a free agent. And it was funny because he visited during when they were talking about opening trades here with the Saints and was like, "Nah, I'm not interested in those guys," and stuff like that. Playing the game until he gets released there, and then eventually does now become New Orleans Saints there now. What do you think about the Derek Carr now going to the Saints and that contract? And what does it mean for the Saints now, moving forward, especially when they've been kind of trying to find that type of quarterback since Drew Brees has left?
They've been trying to find that next quarterback like Drew Brees to carry him and get him over the hill. For this situation was interesting because the New Orleans Saints were the only team that was willing to give up trade compensation for Derek Carr. They were the only one to really seriously dig in and say, "Okay, we'll agree on a trade in principle," and that's what got Derek Carr to go visit them early. And with that, for Derek Carr and that relationship to start to bloom, just because, hey, this is the only team that was willing to offer trade compensation for me. I wasn't going to let that happen, but wow. You know what I mean? So that left an impression on Carr the first meeting he had with the Saints. And then when you look at how this all kind of came about, for him to go back to the Saints, even after he had a couple of visits with the Panthers and what have you, I didn't expect him to go anywhere else but the Saints. Because to me, the Saints were the ones that were giving the full court press on going after just Carr. They told him, you're our guy. you're the one that we want. We don't want anyone else. We want you. So that impression got left on them. They agreed on a pretty hefty contract. Yeah. And, 4 years, $150 million in total. Sounds like a whole lot. And it is. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
The average amount per year is like 37.5. So it's kind of below what the average is now at quarterback.
And the guaranteed isn't even that crazy.
Total guarantees is 100 million of it is totally guaranteed. Guaranteed at signing. Now this is the big key thing. It's $60 million. Once he signed his name, he's getting $60 million out of that contract. Yeah. So it makes it cap friendly.
Yeah.
So he agreed with this contract to make it cap friendly for the Saints, so that way the Saints could maintain staying under the cap, create more cap space so they can go attack free agency the way they see fit. And the cap number is only $7 million. It's $7.2 million. It's crazy that that's the cap number, but it is. So
yeah,
I think it's a great contract for both sides and deserving so of Derek Carr. Like, I'm sorry. Like, a lot of people get on Derek Carr for his whatever faults that he may have had in his past. But to me, Derek Carr is a top 10 quarterback. And when you get an opportunity for a franchise quarterback to be available out of nowhere at 31 years old, you jump on it.
Yeah, absolutely. They've been missing that type of guy for a little while too, as well, and it's better for both sides, and that's what they were kind of looking for. And in a division that was really not very good last year, it was it's a perfect opportunity now with a Tom Brady-less, Buccaneers and things like that, and the Panthers and what situation they're in, and now even Atlanta, where they're not exactly sold on Desmond Ridder here too. So they're poised to really take that division and see what they could do with after this.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that team last year, right? Everybody kind of made fun of them because they didn't have any real quarterback. Winston showed he was okay. Like when in the beginning of the year, he was actually winning games with them. And then he came down with that injury, and then here comes Andy Dalton, which everyone's like, oh, Jesus.
Red rifle.
You know? So, and obviously we saw what happened. But for the Saints to have they still have that tight nucleus offensively and defensively. They lost some players here and there, but they still have a nucleus that they can build around. You look at even on the offensive side of the ball, Derek Carr is coming into a situation where he's never played with a great offensive line like this. This is an amazing offensive line. And now on top of it, you have a very young, coming into his second year now, Chris Olave, who exploded on the scene last year as a rookie. And then they re-signed and give him a 1-year extension to Michael Thomas. So he's returning. He's definitely healthy. Had plenty of time to rest.
Three good weapons over there.
So now, and then you think about the younger guys. Yeah. Like there's like Shaheed, who kind of like started to make a name for himself last season. Look for him to be an important cog of this offense. Juwan Johnson, the tight end. He got an extension, so they're keeping him there. They have Adam Troutman, Alvin Kamara. Yes, he might miss 6 games, maybe, depending on how all that court situation ends up. But again, look at that offense for what it is right now. And you insert a Derek Carr. Now, you were like worried last year, like, oh, what are we going to do for the future? It's done. You have a franchise quarterback now. He's going to deliver with the weapons that you have in place. And defensively, one of the better defenses in the NFC.
Right.
Yeah, this is one of those teams that we've been kind of waiting on them. The window's slowly starting to close with a lot of their really good veteran players. So it's nice to see Carr finally come in and really get that quarterback situation going for him. They got the weapons. They got the line. This might be a year where we can realistically talk about, can the Saints push far enough to get to deep in the playoffs and make a playoff run? And then can Derek Carr finally get the respect that you say he's earned, but a lot of people are against you?
Yeah,
and that's the thing, too. He's always had that stigma, right? Like, everybody spun the narrative and said, oh, well, Carr can't win a playoff game. Carr's been in how many playoff games? 2?
Yeah.
Like, the one playoff game when he was in his MVP year, he got hurt the last game of the season against the Colts. Tore his ankle up, his back was all screwed up, and was like, oh, crap, that's it. That's the end of our season. You know what I mean? And everyone's like, oh, well, Carr couldn't win the play. Yeah, no shit. He didn't even make it to the playoffs that time. You know what I mean? So it's like, the guy hasn't even been to the playoffs enough.
Yeah.
And you want to criticize him for not winning a playoff game. But when you look at some of his stats, when you look at the comeback wins he's had with a lackluster offense, with no real offensive line, let's go back to like last season. Waller was out with an injury. You had no number one. You had Zay Jones, by the way, as your number one. And you had Hunter Renfrow. That was pretty much it. That was it. And then and they made the playoffs, for God's sakes. So how?
Playoffs.
Gee, I wonder why. Because Derek Carr was heading the offense, was taking control, and they went through a lot of different issues, right, that last season. Henry Ruggs situation, him going to jail, and John Gruden being thrusted out of the head coaching chair. So a lot happened, and even though they went through all of that, all those issues, for them to even make it to the playoffs, to make a push at the end of the year, wow. I mean, that to me speaks volumes for a quarterback. He was able to overcome a lot of obstacles and still got them to the playoffs. So
Yeah, absolutely. Let us know in the comments what you guys think about the Derek Carr move, or even what was your biggest move, I think, of the offseason so far right now, or now beginning of free agency here. When we're talking about quarterbacks, Derek Carr is one of them.
Right.
Sticking with, I guess, quarterbacks, we'll go to Daniel Jones, after sitting there and the Giants going through negotiations. We heard different talks about what Daniel Jones' camp was even asking, and it seemed preposterous, and stuff. But finally, they end up getting a deal done. But again, very incentive laden though too in this whole deal. So they ended up putting that out there. So in my opinion, it isn't as bad for them. I know there's been a lot of controversy around this, what he got paid and stuff. Laying in with some of the names that are in the top ranked guys here, but it was on the very limited type of production that you've seen from him. But you got to look at the way the market's going even right now, because if you look at some of the guys that are still even playing on their rookie deals that haven't got contracts yet, that's about to explode. I mean, wait till Joe Burrow goes to get his contract, and Justin Herbert too. See what happens when that deal goes through. So things like that, and we still haven't heard anything out of what's going on with Lamar Jackson either, too. So a lot of that stuff's going to play out, and then you're going to see this number not look so big and inflated as it appears to a lot of people out there.
Yeah, I don't think it was a bad deal, because he was asking initially, from what we heard, for $45 a year. And then there was those reports saying, oh, no, 45 isn't even going to be enough. And Jimmy, you can ask Jimmy, I was worried. I was talking about it at work. I'm like, oh, please don't offer him a record contract. I like Jones. I don't like him that much. But for 40, I'm okay with it. It's only going to get insanely high. It's like the 45s if he is playing well. Yeah. So if we get the guy that we want, then he's going to make that money, and everybody should be happy.
Exactly. And, it still falls into that average pay for a quarterback with Daniel Jones, which is kind of where the Giants saw his contract going. And they were able to negotiate this out and figure out, it fits both ways. You know what I mean? Team-wise, it's not killing them in cap. And then, for Daniel Jones, it is a huge raise for him. Think about it, coming off of a rookie deal, and then all of a sudden now you're making this much money. So for Daniel Jones, huge raise for the team. It's reasonable. They can deal with it, and they'll be able to put pieces around him to make him even better. Because listen, we really haven't seen the totality of what Daniel Jones can be. We've only seen him with a struggling offensive line so far in his short career. Not enough weapons around him, even though there was brief moments where they tried to bring in guys and they just didn't pan out. Now you lock up Daniel Jones, you tag Saquon Barkley, so you keep both of your backbone of your offense, your gems of your offense there, and now build everybody else up. Think the trade for Darren Waller was an amazing deal for the Giants. That trade right there. Now you can say, well, oh, yeah, but we have Bellinger. Yeah, you do, but now you have Waller, too. Now you can create some scenarios where teams have to decide, who do I cover? Do I cover, Waller, or do I cover Bellinger? And now we need to build the receivers. Got to build the receivers up. And I think the Giants right now, they're being very patient right now in free agency. I know a lot of people wanted them to go right in, go get wide receiver, but
I just want a veteran.
And likely, most likely scenario is they're not going to go in first wave.
Yeah.
You know, they're
Yeah.
not going to be trying to compete with some of these other teams
Right.
and shell out a bunch of money and a humongous contract to a receiver. Right now, they're playing their cards right.
Yep.
They're being patient. They're letting time go by, make some of these free agents sweat a little bit, those veteran receivers, and then their numbers come down and they'll be able to afford a suitable contract for someone that's available. Think of a guy like Adam Thielen.
Yep.
Adam Thielen, 30 years old, still can do his thing, still a good player. Think about a guy like that. That guy could fit in nicely.
What do you think about Hollins, potentially?
Mac Hollins?
Yeah, he's out there.
No, don't sign him.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'd rather stick with
I'm
a
gonna be
veteran
honest
like
with you
Thielen in
because
that one.
Yeah.
I liked Mac Hollins as an Eagle. When I first saw him play, and I'm like, man, big receiver like that, has some speed, runs good routes and everything. But the one thing I didn't account for is that he's not physical. He doesn't contest balls. A guy that size, 6'3", 6'4", 220 pounds, and he doesn't contest
he's bad at
50
high
balls?
pointing.
Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So that to me kind of rubbed me the wrong way when I saw him closer up when he was with the Raiders. And I'm like, no, don't sign him. Everybody, if you're looking for a starting caliber receiver, don't sign him.
There you go. We actually got our first comment coming in of the night from Mike
First comment.
Tackett.
Hey.
There he is.
He
What's
said,
up, Mike?
Does
Oh.
newly acquired Jamal Williams take over the RB1 spot in the long term as Kamara's potentially out? A cap-friendly
Yes.
deal, too. $12 million, 3 years. Hashtag Wu-Tang forever.
We
Hashtag know-it-all.
appreciate you.
I
Appreciate you.
see your hashtag,
Definitely,
Wu-Tang.
definitely.
With the hashtag know-it-all. Absolutely. We love it. We love it.
Yeah.
Wu-Tang in the house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so-
So go ahead. You want to talk?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think this is a great move because no franchise goes into next season with just one running back anyway.
Yeah.
It's become not just a featured game. Like, yeah, they're still got key cogs of offenses. Like you think of Derrick Henry, obviously off the top of your head, he's kind of a featured back, but you got to have that second guy. And I think this is not only a sleeper type of a signing with Jamal Williams, but also this is a guy that can also share the workload with Alvin Kamara. Not tear up the tread on Kamara's tires here
Right.
and wear him down, as he gets closer to the end of his career. So this is something that can alleviate that and elongate his career now. Having two stud running backs back there, I don't think Jamal Williams is going to take over the job. But I will say this, with the Kamara situation, we don't know how that's going to unfold. And I'm just assuming that after it's all said and done, Kamara's going to have to at least serve a 6-game suspension.
6 to 8.
And then, he's only going to be out 6 games, and then he'll be back into the lineup. So in the meantime, yes, Jamal Williams will be the active starter if Kamara is facing any kind of extended time away.
Yeah, I mean, Jamal Williams, he showed last season. He's still got some pep in his step. He had that great season of I think he even broke the franchise record for most rushing touchdowns in a single season with 17. So even once Kamara's back, just use him a similar way. Don't make Kamara run in between the tackles. Don't make him do the dirty work. Let him be explosive, all over the field until you get to the 2. And then just let Williams pound it right up the gut. He's a hard runner. He's hard to bring down in those short yard situations.
And that's the tricky thing with both of these guys is they're both physical. Kamara he's actually said in interviews that he enjoys going between the tackles. He likes the contact. He loves it, and both these guys can do that. So now now you put both Jamal Williams and Alvin Kamara. What's to say let's get creative now? Put them both in the backfield when you're in the red zone. Now, what do you do? Is it going to be a swing pass out to Kamara, or is it going to be just a handoff up the middle? So, I mean, the possibilities for this offense are endless.
Yeah,
And
that's what I think the
both-
Saints have always
both
kind of
running
been
backs are
looking
gonna be
for.
pretty
I mean,
amazing.
how many times do they put another running back there to try and get that other type of guy to help spread it out here and maybe rest the Kamara and stuff? Because, again, when you knew he was out there, that's what teams needed to focus on. But if you have another back that he can grind out some yardage for you and do some things too as well, that just creates more opportunities. And like you said, then you start putting maybe both backs in the backfield and do things. And that's what the Saints like to do, whether it be Sean Payton there or not. I mean, they're still mixing it up last year a little bit, and they're always that still type of gadgety type of team still.
Yeah, and you think about Taysom Hill now. You can bring Taysom Hill on a goal line situation as a quarterback.
Yeah.
and it's like, what the fuck? Like,
Taysom Williams,
we gotta defend Kamara.
Yeah.
We don't know if Williams is getting it, and then if you have Taysom Hill roll out, he could either just take the rock and run it in or throw it. So, I mean, there's a lot of different it should be a fun situation in New Orleans for sure.
Absolutely. Hey, going back to, I guess we'll go back to your Raiders here and touch on them because there's been some moves with them lately, too, especially in free agency. They've been very active with a lot of stuff going on. We know about even the trade here, Darren Waller to the Giants for a third-round pick. I think that is a great value trade
And
altogether.
it's not a third-round pick. It's a comp pick. It's at the end of the it's
right.
basically a fourth-rounder. It's basically a high fourth-rounder, basically.
So, I mean, big upside for the Giants,
Huge.
absolutely. And as a Raiders fan, you kind of got to be like, wow, what's going on with this team? Because,
Josh
again,
McDaniels.
Yeah, Derek Carr's gone.
Dave Ziegler.
He's out. You know what I mean? I think, did they tag Josh Jacobs, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Tag Josh Jacobs, and they bring in Jacoby Myers, you know what I mean, as a wide receiver for you, former Patriot again. So you're starting to get nervous again because you've seen this with former Patriot coaches, before assistant coaches and stuff, trying to do the Patriot way by just bringing in Patriots personnel. And it's got to be scary for them. But then also the latest addition now, Jimmy Garoppolo as a starter now for your Raiders. Now, what's your feeling on bringing in Garoppolo here?
I don't like it. I really don't like it. And to be honest with you, the second that they decided to move on from Derek Carr was the second I knew this team is going to go backwards. They're going to go backwards. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. You gave up on a franchise quarterback. Like, everyone's like, what the hell are they doing over there?
Yeah.
Like, okay, cool. Everybody, whoever wants them, go after them. You know what I mean? So when they made that decision right there, I was like, one, it's one of the worst decisions that's ever been made. And two, when I think about it, it's like, okay, well, what's your plan B now? Like, what is your strategy? If you really want to move on from Carr and you say, well, he's not our guy, he's not the right guy for the team, whatever excuse you want to make. And everybody was reporting, Raiders are going for Tom Brady. They're going for Tom Brady. Brady is their guy. They're going to go get him. And then Tom Brady, I retire on the beach.
For real.
I'm done.
Yep.
I think I'm done, guys. Thanks for having me, and see you in the future. And he just retires. And then Josh McDaniels probably heard the news, and he's like, fuck.
There goes my whole plan.
There goes my golden plan to try to catch lightning in a bottle and try to make it to the Super Bowl in 1 year. Like that was the thought process, no doubt. As he was saying, if I bring Brady in here, who knows the offense, who knows he can get people to be better and all those things. No, it's a recipe for disaster now, because now they were desperate, and then as soon as that happens, that bomb drops. Yeah. Now they're like desperation mode. Like, who can we bring in? Well, Jimmy G was a former Patriot. He knows the offense. Let's bring him in. He's going to be the answer. For what, 5 games?
Yeah.
The guy can't stay healthy. So, I mean, and then they missed the opportunity of re-signing Jarrett Stidham, who has been in that offense for a while. He goes to Denver as a backup. It can't get any worse, to be honest. And then you look at Jimmy G. Don't get me wrong. He's about the same age as Carr. They're 31, whatever. But his contract is actually really team-friendly. Now, it's broken down. His salary this year is going to be $11 million. That's it. Like, the totality of the contract. And this is based on how long he plays for. So it's an incentive-laden contract. If he keeps playing, he can make up to $72 million in totality for 3 years. But really, he has a signing bonus for $11 million. He has that now. But the cap number is so low that it justifies the signing. Yeah. And it is incentive-laden. So I will say, contract-wise, they did a great job.
Nice, right? Yeah,
they did a great job. I will say that for this signing. But you have Jimmy G. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not completely buying into it. This is a guy that does not throw deep. He doesn't throw deep. You have Devontae Adams, who can expose any defense. And now you're going to limit yourself, it seems like, with Jimmy G and say, short to intermediate, we're good. Deep, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been a big Jimmy G fan. A lot of people, when they argue about him being a good quarterback, be like, look at his record. He has a great record.
Right.
Be like, he had those couple wins with the Patriots. When they were at their height, they were winning Super Bowls.
That's right.
Great roster. So he got his 3 wins there. Goes to the Niners. and they have everything. They have great weapons, an elite defense. And like, oh my God, Jimmy G is so good. They're winning all these games, 17-14. Oh, he's so good.
Yeah.
Like, he's not the reason they're winning. It used to just drive me crazy. Like, this guy isn't the reason they're winning. He's just there, and they're winning. He's not the reason for it.
Not to mention,
at all.
Yeah, not to mention, you look at what he had around him. He had one of the best defenses in football.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then he had some of great weapons. You know what I mean? So it's like George Kittle, a tight end. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Like, he had everything: a good offensive line, good running game, everything you could have possibly need. But that defense really helps out the offense.
Win the game.
Oh, yeah.
And everyone's going to say, oh, I heard this. Get this, guys. I heard this this past week.
Oh, God.
Here we go.
The comparison to Jimmy G to Derek Carr.
Oh.
They were saying, oh, well, Jimmy G has a better win percentage than Derek Carr. Okay.
on
But
better teams.
Jimmy G had a very good offense, very good defense. What'd Carr have? Carr had some weapons. Yeah, sure. He had some of the best weapons out there. Waller, Renfro, Devontae Adams. But on the defensive side of the ball, what'd they have? Dead last. A dead last ranked defense. Like, absolutely putrid. Terrible. So, I mean, for Jimmy G to come in, I guess, you know what? Hey, it's a Band-Aid. That's really what this is.
It's a bridge.
Well, it is weird because, again, it seems like every time that your team starts to take a step forward, like they're building to something, it seems like all of a sudden somebody wants to hit that reset button. It's like they're sitting there at Staples and they got to go bang and hit the reset button. I don't get it. You know what I mean? But we were seeing what was kind of happening with the Gruden plan, the 10-year plan that
Looks
was
good.
in place. It was starting to
Looks
go.
good.
Yep.
And it seems like one of those things where Josh McDaniels went in here, then all of a sudden he's got to be like, well, I got to put my stamp on this. So basically,
Right.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to
Take
reverse
everyone away.
everything that the first regime did because that's just not me. So I'm going to just get rid of this guy, this guy, this guy, bam, 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 bam. Anything that resembled John Gruden, and things.
It was like this. It was
And
like
then
Josh
now
McDaniels
he's
came in.
dismantling after a year
Yeah.
where you had progress again.
McDaniels and Dave Ziegler teamed up, and they're like, "Here, hold our beers. We're going to show you how we ruin teams.
Yeah, right.
We don't know what the
Well,
hell
it
we're
seemed like
doing."
you're progressing again, yeah. and
Because this is
all
the
of a
thing.
sudden you're not.
Dave Ziegler, first time as a GM. Josh McDaniels, his second chance to be a head coach. What we're hearing out of Vegas is that the players themselves don't even like Josh McDaniels. So that whole stigma about him back in Denver,
Not
it's
surprising.
still repeating itself. And you have a first-time GM in Dave Ziegler who's making moves that people are scratching their heads about. They're like, wow, they traded Waller? What are they doing? They got rid of Carr? They're going backwards. So, honestly, this year, if he can't prove that he can win double the amount of games that he won last year, which wasn't much, then I think he's got to be out. You got Mark Davis has got to come to realization, like, this is not the guy. This is not what we need. We're going backwards.
Yeah.
We got to move on. So,
All right, we've got our next comment, Cody. What do we got?
See, I'm going to hope I don't butcher the pronunciation of
Oh,
this.
okay.
But
come on.
Derek Debo's at Towson? Tuesday. Okay, and say, Joe, I think you would know.
You're good.
I said Niners making many moves.
Right. And that's the other thing about the Niners, too. Like, since we're talking about Jimmy G, kind of, with the Niners, they are making a lot of moves, but they're also losing some players. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Jimmy Ward is elsewhere. One of their I forgot the name of the corner, but he signed elsewhere. So they replaced him with Isaiah Oliver from the Atlanta Falcons. So yeah, they're making moves because they're being forced to be honest.
Right.
They have to, address those holes that are being created by free agency. And listen, this is to credit the Niners too, because when free agency came around and they have some of these young bucks that are out there, Ebenezer Ebukam and frickin' and you know what I mean, and some of these linebackers that were backups in rotation, now they're starting to make a name for themselves in that defense. They start to move on, so they're looking to make moves, obviously, because they have to. They have to replenish the holes and move forward.
Yeah, and I mean, if the big move I think that they're moving on from is Mike McGlinchey here when he signs a different deal, with a different team.
Broncos.
And, the Broncos there. I mean, it's big for them. And
They needed it.
You see, well, yeah, because that's one thing that the Broncos saw. I mean, what did he get sacked like 60 times, 63 times last year?
Lot.
Was it Cody or something like that? Which he's used to. You know, he's a guy, the quarterback, that's been sacked the most. It's got to be Russell Wilson in the last 5 years, averaging 50-something plus getting sacked. So they needed some guys there to get protection for him. But losing him, I think, is big for them on the offensive line. All right, we've got some more comments out here, Cody. What do we got?
Oh, these are flying in.
Flying in.
All right, we got from Mike Tackett. I think he's talking about Alan Lazard's contract. 4 years, $44 million for a wide receiver who only caught 60% of his passes from one of the best. Not to mention, he also is coming off a season that was worse than the year prior.
Yeah. I mean, and that's something.
I'll get to the other one.
That's the power of an all-star type of caliber, or a future Hall of Fame type of quarterback. You know, we're going to get into the Aaron Rodgers thing in a second here, or maybe we'll just do it now. But, that's the power that you hold out there. Once you heard that he was going away in his darkness retreat and out in the darkness and see what prevails out of that when he comes out, a lot of people joke that, he saw a shadow, so we're going to get more weeks of winter. Right. But is that he came out with a list of demands now. All of a sudden, now I am going to get traded. So, I get to choose. This is what I want. But it's very odd to list to pander to him with the demands that he has, because he complained about the weapons that he had in Green Bay and stuff, and to make him happy before they allowed to say, hey, we'll bring Randall Cobb back for you again, man. We got you. Yeah, let's bring your buddy back. That's fine. And stuff. But now he's taking it a step worse here and asking about Mercedes Lewis and Randall Cobb still, but then also Alan Lazard here. So the Jets, again, wanting him so badly, they cave in on this, and this is what they do to go out to get the guy of this caliber, what Mike Tackett's talking about.
Well, the thing that I'll say about this, first of all, with Lazard's contract, it is more expensive than what Jacoby Myers signed for. Jacoby Myers signed for 3 years, $33 million, average of 10, obviously. But when it's broken down, it's he's not really making much. So that contract, and then people were saying, well, Lazard signed for this, and I see $11 million on average per year for a receiver that in a lot of circles throughout the NFL, they view him as a number 3, to be honest. Like, they don't view him as a number 2 out wide type of receiver or anything. So he got paid like an outside wide receiver who hasn't done much in terms of productivity. Now, don't get me wrong. Now, you bring up Rodgers and his list of demands or requests or whatever. To bring in Lazard, I don't think you needed to spend this much money to bring in Lazard. I think this is a phenomenal job by the agent, to be honest. And really tricking the Jets into agreeing to this deal, which is absurd. But with the other demands, like if Cobb wants to play, he'll probably be a Jet, and for little money. And for Martellus Bennett, it's not about him being a weapon as a tight end. He's at 34, 35 years old, he's still one of the best, if not the best, blocking tight end. So it's going to help your running game. And he's going to come at a super cheap price, veteran league minimum. So those requests, I would say, from Rodgers, they're not unreasonable. You can bring him. You can bring these guys in. You can bring
all of them
in. They are going to really help the team overall, because not only are they vets, but they're also going to help these young guys get even better, quicker. So I like the stance that for Rodgers, for him to be like, listen, okay, if I'm going to get traded wherever I'm going to go, so now we know that it's the Jets. Listen, guys, if you could do me a huge favor, can you try? Because that's really kind of the word that he used. Could you try to get these guys and bring them to our team?
That also
and they were like, yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm thinking. When you bring in Odell, I mean, I understand that, but then you got to look at roster spots. Then, if you got to cut your team down a 53-man roster and stuff, but you're holding spots for Mercedes Lewis and a Randall Cobb, when we even had some young players. So you're obviously in that trade probably with the Packers. You're probably going to get rid of Elijah Moore. Then
no,
so
I don't think that's going to happen. Listen, they already cut Braxton Berrios, who actually is an underrated receiver, and they made room by getting rid of him and his salary. He was making $5 million. So now they cut that loose, and they're going through the offseason like they should. There's still a lot to work out with the trade compensation. That's still ongoing. But it's going to happen. We're just waiting to see what they have to give up. Exactly. We're all interested to see why this is taking so long. Usually negotiations like this, yes, they take a little bit of time, but I think this is going longer than it has to. And I think it's because there's a sticking point where Green Bay's not asking for a first, but they're like, hey, would you give us a second? You know, and maybe the Jets are like, well, I don't know. He's 39. We're taking on this contract. We don't know if he's going to play past this year. This could be a one-year rental.
That's the thing.
And do we want to give up a second rounder? I think if we have to, we will. But I think they're still trying to like maybe negotiate a third-round pick. You know what I mean? Something like that. And that's kind of the sticking point, I think. I think that's why they're still going back and forth.
Yeah, we actually got a lot of comments flying in.
Yep, sorry, we're trying to get to
you guys.
He's on here. We got Marcus Baker.
Marcus Baker.
Think
What's up,
the
Marcus?
Steelers did in free agency?
They haven't done much. They've signed Patrick Peterson as corner to replace the young stud Sutton that they lost in free agency. There hasn't been a whole lot on Pittsburgh's front, and this is kind of like normal for Pittsburgh. They're usually one of those patient teams that wait and pick some of the lower hanging fruit, get them at a discount price, and they're still decent players that they can fill holes with. So I know that they lost one of the rotational players, Robert Spillane, linebacker. Devin Bush is a free agent. Everybody, he's only 25 years old and he's still out there. So if you need an inside linebacker, and I get it, he has an injury concern. He came back from. He's healthy now. It just depends on what team is going to give him a shot. Or maybe at the very least, if he's out there long enough, maybe he comes back to Pittsburgh and says, "Oh, I'll sign for on a cheaper deal."
Yeah, and then he goes. He goes on to say about the Patrick Peterson. He goes, "I think we have a very good defense. Just need more offensive weapons. We do have Calvin Austin, the third, coming off an injury, who has recorded one of the fastest 40 times at the NFL Combine last year. Offensive weapons, but you know what? They do know how to draft. I think some of those weapons too. You've seen it continuously for the Steelers too, and finding those wide receivers to help this team out. But it really, again, you're looking to see Kenny Pickett take a step forward this year. You really need him to try and take a step forward here.
I think he will.
And that's going to be the deciding factor, I think, for all of this, because your defense is always going to be good the way that team is.
Yeah, they have a solid defense for sure. So, like, bringing in a veteran like Patrick Peterson, you don't lose much in terms of knowledge of the game.
Yeah.
But you do lose that youth where you would have had Sutton longer. But also, they ended up re-signing Larry Ogunjobi, the D tackle. So that's a good signing for them to keep him there. And then other than that, maybe like a backup guard, Nate Herbig. DeMonte KZ at safety, like they kept, and they're starting to feel like some depth issues that they might have,
which you kind of want to do again. If you're a team like that too, you're not going to go crazy, in free agency.
And even though some of these contracts, you think about Sutton signed, he went to Detroit, signed $33 million for 3 years. Yep. You look at what Pittsburgh did, Larry Ogunjobi, Patrick Peterson, and the list goes on. Out of these contracts, to be honest, the cap hit is nothing. Patrick Peterson's only going to be a $4 million cap hit as a starting corner. That's really cheap.
Yeah.
And then the guard only $2 million. So I mean, the Steelers are just being very prudent and diligent about their free agency, like they always are.
Yeah. All right, what else? We got Evan. Caraballo in the house, I think. I'm sorry, I hope I didn't butcher that. Caraballo in the house. He said he wants to talk about the Giants. There we go. Let's keep talking about Giants. Cody and I are Giants fans. We're all about that. We were a little bit, but
just so you know,
what's up?
I am not watching Raider games this season.
Oh, and so you're going to be following the Giants?
I am going to be rooting for. I'm going to be rooting for the Saints because my quarterback is over there, and I am going to be rooting for the Giants.
All right,
to do something.
Excellent.
We
really appreciate that.
I am here for moral support, everyone.
Yeah, nice. Awesome. But yeah, I mean, it should be interesting. But there you could support, Darren Waller then too.
That's right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
my guys, they left, so I might as well support them.
Yeah, I know, but I think it's big for what the Giants are doing, and I think they really did need to do something with Daniel Jones and lock in some kind of contract now too, because again, like I said, it looks weird now, but once some of these other bigger name quarterbacks that especially are youthful and up and coming, like Joe Burrow, and Herbert, they're all of a sudden they're going to be resetting the market a little bit here, and some of those other contracts are going to be ticking down here. So you wanted to grab them now and put those incentives in too, because overall, that's what it's showing them, saying, hey, show me. We like what you did so far, what we possibly could be, but you need to still prove some more to us, stay healthy, and maybe we can build with this thing, because that's what the Giants need to do too. Right. This year, they are saving some of that money where they've been in cap trouble, with, i.e., Kenny Galladay, who now has just been released finally.
Thank God, right?
And thank God, so we opened that up.
Right?
And you saw what they did a little bit last year with really no names out there. So give him a chance with some better weapons this year. Draft a wide receiver. There's nothing really out there. They're talking about wide receivers in the free agency. They're not going crazy and trying to go overpay for some of these guys out there, because there's nothing really great out there, any game-changing. Like you said, Joe, and Cody and I had already talked about it. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't mind an Adam Thielen on there, on the cheap, just another veteran who's got decent hands, good
great
teammate too, locker room type of dude. That's a good move, I think, for them. So adding Waller, all those things makes sense. Right now, you've got Saquon Barkley under the franchise tag, so you're good there for now. We just hope that, again, moving forward into the future, that coming up next year, that he's not trying to break the bank here and try and overpay for a running back.
Right, and we're looking at what free agents they've signed thus far. Sorry, Giants fans, no receivers just yet, but be patient. But like Cody, I know he was mentioning the guys at linebacker, Bobby Okereke. Is the name, yeah.
All right.
Very, very underrated linebacker, mind you. Very good linebacker. Comes from the Colts, now a Giant. Signs for 4 years, $40 million, $10 million on average, obviously. But total guaranteed is about half, I would say. As far as the other details, that they're not available. But I think overall it's a good contract for a 26-year-old linebacker in his prime as a veteran in the NFL. The Giants also bring back Nick Gates, guard. For them, or no, he ended up going to Washington. He left the Giants, went to Washington. One key signing I will say is, because the Giants missed out on Dalvin Tomlinson coming back to return to New York, they replaced him with a really good player though, Raheem Nunez-Roches, D tackle, 29 years old, but still can ball out. They signed a 3-year deal with him, so he's going to be the new addition for the Giants. I think it's a very good fit. And he's going to do really well in New York.
All right. I think we actually
Matt Breida. Matt Breida at running back.
Oh, yeah.
You re-signed
I like
him.
bringing him back, too, again, because I think he really made a difference when he was out there. Yeah, when he got his chances and opportunities.
So get this. Guess $0.4 million contract, and he got $500,000 at signing. So there you go. There's your whole contract, basically. But great signing, and still 28, still in his prime. So good signing. Giants are another one of those organizations right now with Joe Shane being very diligent in free agency and not kind of rushing to
All
expectations.
right, we're having camera issues again for some reason, Joe, but the camera is frozen stuff. But we are really just beefing up our miming skills right now, or ventriloquism skills. So we're really being great ventriloquists right now. But at least everybody who listens on the podcast side, nothing else has changed.
Nothing changed.
You're doing good.
You.
Maybe it's a good time right now to even promote the podcast and things like that, Joe.
Yeah, definitely, man. And listen, if you're new to the show, if you haven't done so already, it'd be a huge help if you could guys help us grow our football community. Head over to YouTube. Football on the No Show. When you find us there, hit that subscribe button, smash the shit out of it, and then hit the like button and share it to all your friends and family members that are really into football, because that's what this is all about. We are the most interactive football talk show out there, and we are here to prove it. So you guys have been dropping comments down below. We've been responding to them. Listen, this is what we enjoy the most is reacting to everybody, getting everybody's opinions on certain things. Even if you guys have a question, we're happy to give you guys a shout out, happy to give you guys an answer. And let's go. Let's become a know-it-all.
We are back. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we talked about the Giants, talked about the Steelers and 49ers, everything. Mike Tackett, let's get back to his comment quick. He says, are NFL franchises overvaluing the wide receivers this much, or is it a form of desperation to land another big name here with what they've been doing with some of the wide receivers? But you even said here again, if you look at the Lazard thing, overall it's team friendly again. But we talked about the Christian Kirk thing last year, and what the Jags were doing and stuff, and maybe overpaying for these guys that were really
hefty
number
contract,
twos that you're trying to pay like a number one,
like
or
a number
something.
one.
So what are you doing? And maybe because I think again, what you're seeing with some of the teams, with some of the moves overall, what they're doing. Not exactly desperation, but again, it's a copycat league. So what did the LA Rams just do? They've put all their chips in the middle and said, hey, you know what? Whatever. We'll buy this guy for a year. We'll do this. We'll give away our future picks, then get this guy here. We'll go trade to get this quarterback over here for a year. Bang, bang, bang. And they got a ring within like 2 years of doing that, 3 years.
Right.
And it happened.
But they sold
now
out
they're
for
a shamble and stuff like that. Now it's a fire sale.
But and that's the thing.
A lot of franchises say, hey, maybe it's just worth it like that. Because one, again, you're champions right there. You get that trophy right there for you and your franchise.
But now it's rebuild mode.
Two, I mean, it's big because you know what? I noticed too, I mean, I'm sure you guys too, as being fans out there, we live in upstate New York, so we see the Bills, the Giants fans, the Patriots fans, things like that around. But every so often, again, who's the hot team? Oh, look at the Bengals fans. All of a sudden pouring up out of nowhere. Oh, my God, Chiefs fans pouring up out of nowhere. You know what I mean?
That's always been a thing.
Helps. Yeah, I know. But if you start winning, you're doing that. Boom, it builds their fan base a little bit. Get a little more, money too. More jersey sales here and there, quick.
Right.
You get that quick dash. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you get
Make
a quick
yourself
dash,
relevant for a bit.
and then you lose those fans that hopped on the bandwagon, and they go to the next hot team.
Speaking of which, where are those Patriots fans? By the way, where do all those Patriots?
They're
fans
around.
Go?
They're hiding right now.
I don't know. A lot of them are missing.
Somewhere.
Yeah,
They're hiding.
I mean,
they're
under Bill Belichick's hoodie somewhere.
There are, and that's the thing too. We've seen bandwagon fans, and it happens every year. Whoever the next hottest team now you're going to see a crap ton of Eagles fans next season,
right? Yeah.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And yes, the Chiefs fans are still going to be
miserable.
there, but. And that's the thing. It's to be expected. When you have a lot of casual football fans, they're going to hop on the hottest team. They're like, oh, I'm a fan. No, you're not. You're a liar and a traitor. But I mean, this happens every year. I mean, it's nothing new.
But do you think it is just a desperation move, or with the wide receiver situation that Mike's talking about, or do you think it's
I was thinking about this, and because I've been doing a little bit of scouting because we're getting ready, ramped up for the NFL draft, and that's right around the corner. We
definitely got to meet out live somewhere again this time.
That was fun. We should definitely do it.
We missed it just last year and stuff like that.
Hey, know-it-alls, if you guys have any recommendations where to watch the draft, we will show up and we are going to party. But I was thinking about this. Like, I'm doing some scouting for the draft. I'm looking at some of the wide receivers that are coming out, and I'm not super impressed. There's a couple of guys where I'm like, check all the boxes. They're like phenomenal. You know what I mean? They're the next guys. But then I feel like there's a ton this year where there's a lot of receivers that are kind of just mid. They're kind of just all average. You know what I mean? Nothing really separates them. And that's kind of how I see free agency. With free agency right now, there's not a lot of like top tier guys that are available where, you know what I mean? Like if Mike Evans became available, he'd be a hot commodity, right? But there's not a lot of them this year. In free agency, it's almost like that's why when you have Jacoby Myers rated as the best wide receiver free agent available, that's a problem.
Yeah,
that's nothing exciting.
Really? Somebody really rated him up there like that?
Alan Lazard was kind of shortly after him and what have you, but then you look at Juju, like Juju was also
maybe people,
the
GMs were listening to the analysts too much.
To be honest, they should be listening to us a lot more often. But to be honest, this year in the wide receiver department in free agency, it's kind of weak. It's not as strong as it used to be. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like there's a big name out there, Odell, but Odell is trying to price himself into
Yeah,
space.
yeah.
When he's trying to request $20 million a year, but dude, you have back-to-back ACL injuries and you're 30 years old. You're not 26, 27. You're 30. So you got Julio Jones, who's kind of basically washed up now at this point.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and that's really what's left. Like, there's not a lot of high-tier guys. So,
Darius Slayton's out there.
okay.
Yeah, he showed a
but
lot
then-
in the playoffs.
But that's the thing is, like, when you got, Jacoby Myers was like the first
Yeah.
bargaining chip to
Yeah.
fall. Then you saw Lazard's ridiculous contracts. You know, he signed right away after that. It's like there's not enough in free agency to dictate and say, oh, well, Adam Thielen's out there. He's a really good. I would take Thielen over anybody else that's left.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
To me, he's the hottest commodity right now. If you're trying to bring in a veteran wide receiver, like, I hope the Giants do this. I hope the Giants sign Adam Thielen because it's a great fit. Guy's going to bring veteran leadership, and he's going to really kind of help out Daniel Jones for sure with his possession receiving skills. So right now, I think a lot of teams are saying, hey, well, the rest of the receivers that are remaining, what are we doing? We don't have to press like crazy. Let's just let them sweat it out, get their numbers down, and then we're going to sign them to a decent deal. I think this is why teams are not racing to this position because, let's face it, it's nothing glorious this year in free agency.
Yeah, Mike Tackett's out there. He says
Yeah.
Odell is to a team as a number 3 or number 4 on a 1-year league minimum seems appropriate.
I agree, Mike, honestly, because here's the thing. Is we talk about his injury history, and that's really what's going to come into play. I know Odell's agent and Odell himself doesn't want to hear this, but you have back-to-back ACL tears. You cannot request or demand $20 million a year and be paid one of the highest receivers in the league. It's just impossible. Yeah. You're 30 years old. You're at the end of your career because of your injuries. So why not sign a 1-year veteran minimum league deal to prove that you can not only, 1, stay healthy, but 2, be a difference maker for that team, whoever that is.
Yeah, that's truly banking on yourself. You know what I mean? Again, throw it out there, this and that, show everybody they could still do it.
Because, I mean, honestly, he only had, to me, if he could stay healthy, he's got 3 years left, and then it's done.
Yeah. Yeah, wide receivers already got a short shelf life as it is.
Right.
You know, talk about overpaying possibly, or, you know, where they see value and stuff. Cody and I were talking about this, and I think he feels very strongly. In fact, I was looking back at our footage from last year a little bit, and Cody brought up this even last year that it was bothering him. So now going into free agency and stuff, he's seeing these D tackles signed right now, and again, he's looking at them not as explosive type of guys, you know, again, because it's tough when you try and compare some of them to a guy like an Aaron Donald who plays the D tackle technically, you know, and he's getting sacks and things like that. You know what I mean? But again, how do you value these guys in with the contracts that they're getting right now? Cody, take it away, brother.
Oh, boy. All right, so I guess I'll go for our...
Ready to rant. Cody rant. Start now. Go.
Yeah, I'll go for our biggest name first, and that would be Javon Hargrave. Well, he's had 2 very good seasons back-to-back now. He's 32. He had a whole career of being a very decent D tackle. Not
He's
great.
30 still. 30 years old. That's 2 years difference.
Wasn't he 32?
It's like
He's 30.
tomato, whatever.
Yeah.
You know.
But anyways, the amount of money that he got offered, was it 84? Yeah. 84 million over
Total,
4
yep.
years.
Yep.
Which I'm not paying that for a D tackle, let alone a D tackle in their 30s, not 32, in their 30s. Yeah, he had his 12 sack year last year, and that's impressive.
Very impressive.
On one of the most versatile D lines in all of football right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he got a good footing under a defensive coordinator that really brought out his strengths. But I'm worried that we're going to see the old Javon Hargrave again. We're going to see that very decent guy is going to get you like 25 tackles and maybe 2 sacks. We're not going to see 12 sacks again. It's just not going to happen. And we're not going to see him making all these plays. All right. Who's next? Who's next?
Wait, I got a rebuttal.
Oh, yeah, rebuttal.
All right,
He's
we'll
gonna
go to
review.
Joe.
Here we
Joe
go.
rebuttal.
So, Javon
the
Hargrave.
representative here is going to take the stand. He has the mic. Hey, you guys, I surrendered
what
a
I will
mic here
say-
to my time to Joe.
What I will say is that Javon Hargrave has been a underrated D tackle for so long with the Steelers. Until he signed with the Eagles, that's when he kind of got noticed because of obviously their success as a team. And they're like, oh, well, look at this guy. Look at what he's done. He's got 12 sacks this year. He's amazing. He's always been amazing. And I think it's still going to continue because if you look at where the situation he left and now he went to the San Francisco 49ers defensive line. Well, guess what?
Line.
Very good D-line. Some people consider them the best. And Javon Hargrave is going to be able to dole out punishment in San Fran. I think that's still going to continue. He might not get 12 sacks because it is going to be a little bit different of a defense, but it's still aggressive. It's still getting after and creating pressure. Hargrave, I think he's going to thrive there.
It might fall into the same thing that he's talking about.
And then you look at his contract. It's not all that. It's not even hardly as much as what it's being portrayed as. $84 million for 4 years. Yes, that's kind of a steep contract for a D tackle. But then when you look at the breakdown, he got $40 million of that is going to be totally guaranteed. $40 million is due at signing. He already signed it. He's got $40 million that's taken away from it. He's only getting paid $6 million this year. So I would say that his contract, they did a great job structuring
it that
it
way, giving him all the cash money,
so that way,
bonus up front.
Give it to him up front. That makes it a lot easier, the rest of his deal. And you're getting a very big stud at D tackle, a guy that's kind of went underrated since Pittsburgh and then blew up, I guess you could say, in media when he was an Eagle.
Like it might fall into like what Cody's even saying. It might be just as well in for the 49ers because look at the different weapons that they have here. I think Cody's even trying to say that defense that Fletcher Cox and a bunch of other guys out there, even Hassan Reddick too, and was making some moves and just all these different great players here. The 49ers have players all around too, so it's going to open up opportunities for him to make some plays too, and that's why I think it's pretty like a well-balanced type of move.
Yeah, I mean, what makes it more impressive to me that Hargrave has been unnoticed is because in Pittsburgh they run a 3-4, where you're not supposed to get sacks as a D-lineman.
No.
You're not supposed to. But Hargrave was still able to get like 5-6 sacks as a 3 technique, D tackle, D end. You know what I mean? So for him to go to a 4-3, I think that's why his production skyrocketed, is because now he's being treated as a guy to create pressure. And we saw that with the Eagles. Yes, you're right. There was talent around him too, but he's still, to me, a very, very good, probably one of the best D tackles in football.
All right, Cody, who else grinds your gears on this one? You got a thing against D tackles out there. Who else?
I do. I think it's just a value thing with me. If I'm obviously not a GM. I will never be a GM. But I don't see the value in spending this much money to go out and get just, the big guy in the center of your defensive line.
He's got something against big guys, Joe.
He does. I feel offended.
Anyways, before I offend Joe more, I guess we'll move on to the next guy with Zach Allen signing 3 years. I think it's $45.75 million. I'm not a very big fan of Zach Allen. He only plays, I think, an average of like 10 to 14 games a year, so he's not always out there, for one. He doesn't produce a lot when he's out there. This guy, we won't look at sacks.
Right.
It's not a big thing for a lot of D tackles, but he's not getting that many tackles. He's not getting in the backfield. He's just not making a huge impact. And you're going to pay this guy this much money to come in? I don't know what he gets up front. I don't know what he hits with the cap, but I don't agree with that much money.
Joe's got it on. He's ready for his rebuttal
on it.
So
I surrender my time to
for
Joe.
Zach Allen, he's actually playing the DN position. He's not playing D tackle.
Interior.
No, D end. He played last year as a defensive end, and now he's going to be a D end for the Denver Broncos. 25 years old. This is kind of where it gets a little tricky, is because of his age. 25 years old, when you're young and you show any kind of promise, you can kind of negotiate a bigger deal than what you probably should get paid. So for Zach Allen, his contract is $47 million, like you were mentioning, in totality. Average of that is 15.9. So for a D end, if you're a pass rushing specialist, which I don't consider Zach Allen is, then that's kind of like the average for like a Max Crosby and what have you.
Yeah, he was making a big impact.
But then you look at the way they structured this deal. Total guarantees is $32 million of it, $32 million at signing, so that takes a lot away from the remaining of the contract. Yeah. $7 million is what he's going to be making against the cap. So contractually, it isn't terrible. But for the player, I will go with Cody on this because Zach Allen, to me, in his performance, just isn't deeming a D-end worthy contract. He's kind of lackluster, almost average, to be honest. So this guy has, even though he's young in his prime at 25, he hasn't proven anything as of yet, and he got this really good deal to go to Denver to be on their D-line. So I agree with the contract. It makes sense. But for the player, I just haven't seen enough of him.
All right, I only got one more player to rant
All
about
right,
this.
here we go.
So it's not as bad. Joe pitched him to me a little bit on the way here. But I still just don't. I think I'm just going to stick on not liking paying a lot of D tackles unless they're like crazy big difference makers. I'm not a fan of Draymond Jones getting the contract that he got. He's good. Don't get me wrong. He's good. But he's not elite. He is a very good lineman, but not someone that should be making as much as he is, which is, what, 51 and a half. 51 and a half over 3 years. I just think that's too much. You can put that cap to way better use and get yourself at least a bigger difference maker. Someone maybe that could take over your defense, not someone who, he might be a solid complimentary guy.
And this
Joe,
is
you
where
can disagree with
we
me,
disagree. Draymond Jones, I've seen enough of this guy 2 times a year in his short career with Denver. This guy is not just a D tackle. He's like a hybrid. He can play D tackle, but also can kick out the edge, and he just creates disruption. He's a lot of pressure. He gets after people, stops the running game. He gets after quarterbacks. He sacks. This guy is like the complete D-line player. Like, you can move him anywhere, inside, outside, and he's that much of a playmaker. I've seen him go after, Derek Carr multiple times, and I'm like, who is this dude? Like, because he's literally destroying everybody every single week. Like, it doesn't matter what offensive line he plays against. I've seen him play against the Chargers when they were healthy and was making a huge impact. So this dude coming in, he's not a household name, I would say, but he's a guy that's going to be well known in Seattle because Seattle gave him $51 million in total, but $23 million of that was at signing. So his contract is worthy of a starting D tackle / D end. He's going to get paid $10 million a year, and this guy is going to make an impact. I mean, I've seen him play. And I wanted him. I wanted the Raiders to go get this guy and put him opposite Crosby. That would have made me real happy. But they didn't do that because they're not logical.
Just Jacoby Myers.
Just him. He plays defense apparently too. Draymond Jones, to me, this is a guy that's going to make a name for himself in Seattle. He hasn't been well known, but there are murmurings right now in the NFL league with the teams that are starting to take notice. And I think he's going to explode in Seattle.
All right. Well, that ends my little rant. There's no other D tackles that made me angry when I saw their contract, so we can continue the show.
All right, yeah, absolutely. So again, we talked about the wide receivers too out there, maybe getting appreciated, I guess, for some of these guys.
D tackles out there. I have Cody's address, so if you would like to pay him a visit, I'll send it to you.
There you go. Absolutely. All right.
Geez.
So Cody has a list of names here he wants to go over, and we're going to look at some of the contracts of the guy. You want to talk about being overdone, and we're going to play a little bit of a game here. You guys play along with us. We love to play games. And it's basically we're going to look at their contract and say, is a good deal or basically get real, bro. You don't deserve that much.
If you want to make it easier, you could just tell me the player, and I got the breakdown of the contract.
The breakdown of the contract right there.
So that way we can
you can go over it more in depth than what's just written in my
and then
notebook.
that way it'll actually help us with our deliberation.
Yeah, I don't have any cheat sheets on me this week. That's terrible. But all right, here we go. Let's
Don't
get the
admit
music
that.
going here. Yeah, it's all good. All right, I got the music going.
Cody, who you got first?
Cody, let's go. What do we got?
All
Start
right,
ripping it off.
We'll kick us off with one of the guys who signed, I guess, right off the rip. We'll go with Tremaine Edmonds to the Bears. He signed a 4-year, $72 million contract.
Yeah, so that 72 out of that $72 million, he's going to average $18 million a year. $50 million of that contract will be fully guaranteed. Guaranteed at signing. This is interesting because this matters. $36.8 million of that deal is at signing. which brings his cap down to $14 million, which I still think is kind of crazy for a middle linebacker. $14 million. Now, he is 24, going to be 25 by the time the season starts. Chicago replacing a much-needed position at the middle linebacker position. But Tremaine Edmonds, to me personally, from what I've been able to see of him in Buffalo, very good inside linebacker. However, I've noticed him being inconsistent week to week. Now, it might depend on who they're playing, the offense that he plays. Maybe he plays against certain offenses better than others. And I've just seen inconsistencies from him. So, like, one week he'll be amazing. He'll be all over the field, making tackles, making plays, knocking balls down. And the next week you'll be like, where's Tremaine? Where'd he go? So, for me, for a guy that's kind of inconsistent, even though he's still super young, I think this contract for a middle linebacker is a little too much for me.
All right, he's on the get real. I'm going to go with Joe on the same type of thing because, again, if I look at Tremaine Edmonds, I think the same type of deal. At that linebacker spot, I'm looking for like a difference maker too. You see a guy like Matt Milano here on that defense for the Buffalo Bills. Now he's a big difference maker here, stopping the run, the pass,
He's
all over
key.
it. And a guy like that, I think you need there, and you do pay something nicely for them, to be that lead type of guy. Because again, the linebacker spot, you want that guy that's like a team leader here and recognizing plays and stuff. And like Joe said, he's just way too inconsistent for me.
And then you bring up Matt Milano. Just so you know, a little bit of news is he just received a 2-year extension to stay with Buffalo.
So I'm with Joe on that one too. What do you think there, Cody?
Yeah, I think I'll join you guys on that. He's a
Get real.
Get real.
Get
real. I need a sound.
He's a very good player, but if I'm gonna shove out this kind of money, I need my defensive captain.
You need a Roquan Smith. Oh wait, they had one.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Tremaine
that's
Edmonds.
Are y'all fucking serious right
That's
now?
the guy you gotta pay.
All right, next up, what do you got? What's next? What's the next
All right,
contract?
next we'll move on to one that's not as crazy. We'll go on Geno Smith's contract. It's very heavily incentive based, but this is a guy he's been a backup for years, so that's why a lot of people didn't even think he should get much. He had his one season, and besides that, you don't have you have some mediocre years. You have years as a backup, and you did very good. And this contract isn't that crazy. 3 years. I think it's $75 million, but it can get up to $105.
Yeah, it's very incentive based,
Yeah.
and this is kind of the contract where I was hoping Seattle would do, because let's face it, none of us envisioned Geno Smith this past year to be as good as he was.
No,
Nobody.
it's a shocker.
Because when you look at the year prior, and we saw when he came in, Russell Wilson was hurt and everything. He comes in and he threw interceptions, more interceptions than touchdowns. We're like, oh boy, we kind of knew this was going to happen.
Yeah.
Oh, Geno.
And Russell Wilson gets traded away, and we're thinking, hey, is it possible that Geno is going to be the starter? We're laughing it off. We're literally laughing like, no way is Geno going to be the starter. Sure enough, we were proved wrong. And not only did he become the starter, but he proved everybody wrong in how well he played.
Yeah.
The offense had phenomenal chemistry with the wide receivers. The offense he fully understood and knew. He just, I would say he was more decisive when he was a starter this past year.
Yeah.
Knew when to take off with his legs, knew when not to, sit tight, step into the ball and throw the ball, let it rip, and made accurate throws and good decisions. So for Geno to prove everybody wrong, this is a contract where it's incentive-laden based. It works well for the Seattle Seahawks because they're still going to have a continued presence there at that position, a guy that they know and love, and showed and proved everybody wrong. So I think for the contract for Geno, this is a legit contract. It is a good deal for both sides, and I look forward to seeing what Geno can do next season.
Yeah. See if it was more than just kind of flash in the pan.
Yeah, I mean, again, I like the same thing too. It was a good story too altogether, Geno Smith and what happened and everything too. And it seems like even too for him and his career that it was Something that changed in his life too. It seems like he's found, something spiritually to believe in now too, that maybe has helped him throughout and kind of saw his career in a different light. So now maybe that has just been more clarity for him and just an open mind, not so much pressure and stuff like that too.
Right.
Because when he was kind of brought into with that Jets situation, it was already terrible what they had done with Mark Sanchez and everything, and trying to get through that whole thing. So he was part of a big weird change over here with the Jets. So trying to find himself now, it seems like he has a different viewpoint of life altogether, and then it's now translated to his career, and now he doesn't have that pressure to succeed. He's just kind of been like, hey, I'm happy to play, I'm happy to be here, I'm here with my teammates. God is great, life is great, and here we go. And if he can get up to that money, then he truly has deserved it then.
Yeah,
So
they talk about late bloomers. He was the latest bloomer. You know what I mean? And you're right. The story was great because coming into the Jets situation, it was very unstable to begin with. And they were spitting in and out off new offensive coordinators while he was there. Never really got a chance to be in a, continual coaching staff. Never have that continuity for wherever he went to. And then when he ended up in Seattle, a lot of people were like, oh, now he's a backup. Okay, we kind of saw that happening. But what we didn't see is that his whole time in Seattle, he had the same coaching staff, the same guys around him, the same players. And then now that he finally got his chance after being comfortable and being bloomed into that organization, we saw the results of that. So
beat out
on
Drew
Gino.
Lock to be the starter in that one. Absolutely.
Drew Lock. All right. Guess I'll move right into the next one.
That's the plan.
Yeah, we got Mike McGlinchey, a 5-year, $87.5 million deal. Sure, he's a good tackle, but this shows a big level of desperation from the Broncos. They gave away a lot to get Wilson in house. And first season's bad. It was real bad. I said before, right after the trade happened, and I quote to Jimmy, I said that we're going to look back on this as one of the worst trades in NFL history. This is horrible. They gave up a lot to get a guy who was showing signs of regression in his last couple seasons. And he came in, didn't look good. I get, you didn't have the blocking, and there was a lot of other injury issues. There was a lot of contributing factors. But initially, this trade looks horrendous. So they went out, got a couple linemen as fast as possible, overpaid both of them a bit, and then they're like, all right, we're gonna compete for the playoffs for now, Russell, right?
We didn't think so.
No.
Everybody across the media was like, "Oh my God, amazing! This is exactly what they needed."
Hot takes everywhere.
They're going to win the division now,
Yep.
possibly the Super Bowl. Now, well, here's the thing about desperation. I know really, a lot about this.
Oh gosh.
Mike McGlinchey here with this signing.
I know a lot about
this signing
desperation.
shows a lot about this because the contract itself is excessive a little bit for a right tackle who literally is. Maybe he's not average, but in the league, but above average. Not elite, but above
like
average.
He's 7.5 out of 10.
He's halfway decent. But 87 million. Average of that is 17.5 million a year. 50 million of this contract will be totally guaranteed. Guaranteed at signing $35 million. So you see a lot of these teams signing these big names, and they're giving a lot of guaranteed money at signing to kind of reduce that cap number. His cap number is only $6 million this season, which is nothing for a tackle. Are you kidding me? So I do agree with Cody in the essence that is McGlinchey the answer long term? Well, he's going to have to be. But for Denver, I feel like they reached a little bit on this and gave him a little bit too much money in total for what he is. He's an average to above average type of tackle, and they think this guy is going to stop Max Crosby because that's really what they were worried about. Last year, I believe Max Crosby had like 5 sacks on Russell Wilson by himself.
Yeah.
Out of the 2 meetings that they had. So for Mike McGlinchey, you got a tall task to rise up against. So I think this is a move out of desperation, obviously, but at the same time, I don't think it's the answer long term.
All right.
Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with everything that Joe said. Pretty much the same type of deal. You know what I mean? There's not much to be said about that whole.
Yeah, not many new points to make on it.
Debo before it said he just thinks that he's a bum, so he's glad he's gone. So whatever.
All right. Last one of these just ridiculous contracts. One that just shouldn't have happened. Our new NFL record for highest paid kicker.
Oh man,
Matt Gay.
Jesus.
4-year, $22.5 million for a
God.
kicker.
Yes.
A kicker.
Yep.
Why are you paying money
Like,
to a kicker?
here's the thing
Why?
Here comes the money.
there it comes.
Here comes the money.
for a kicker,
Pay me the money. Show me the money. You know, so I mean, here's the crazy thing is I understand, like, you need a good kicker. Like, this is the problem with some teams. They don't even have a kicker. They have a hard time trying to find one. I don't understand it because there's like 5 main kickers across nationwide and you can't find one. Yeah. But Matt Gay, I mean, cleans up. Let's just say right from the back, cleans up with his contract. He's 28 years old, so he's still on the younger side of kicking. 4 years, $22 million.
Younger side of kicking.
And here's
Still
the
alive and kicking.
his what is it? The guaranteed at signing is $10 million.
Yeah.
This guy actually had a signing bonus. Like, that's the crazy thing.
Holy
So,
Santa Claus.
$10 million. His cap number is that of being a good kicker, $3 million. So it's cap wise, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But to pay in totality that much money for, a Matt Gay to
Yeah.
kick for you,
Yeah.
instead of not the Ravens kicker, it's not like you
Yeah,
went out
yeah,
and you
Justin
signed
Tucker.
Justin
Yeah,
Tucker,
yeah, right.
and got him to come here. That would have been more. You were like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, sure, we get it. Guy's like the best in the league. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But come on, like, this guy's not anything elite. I'm sorry,
Mm-hmm.
he's good, but he's not that crazy.
All right.
Yeah, I agree. The same type of deal again. Overpaying for a kicker is just as stupid as some of the other things that have been happening. But yeah,
Some other things.
some other things I can't list right off the top of my head right now.
Oh, well, we've already talked
It's almost
about
as
a lot
dumb
of
as
these
like
other
even having a
players.
cheerleading squad at this point. You know what I mean? Like,
cheerleading
why?
squad.
I know it doesn't go
Yes.
against your cap to have cheerleaders, but why do we really have cheerleaders on
don't
the
know.
side? No offense, it's nice to employ women and things in the NFL and stuff like that, but
People
I'm
are
just
gonna
saying.
Take this quote.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. It's offensive towards women on the sideline then maybe too to have them, scantily clad and things out there on the sidelines for what? You know. I'm just taking a stand for women. Let's fire all the cheerleaders.
I love the fact that you came out and said, I'm taking a stand for women. Fire them all. But
right,
you know what?
you know what?
To your point, real quick, like, I think we've talked about this a couple times on the show throughout our years, and
Well, they even filed
but-
a lawsuit against the NFL for multiple
But the
teams
thing
too, when
is,
they've been
honestly,
treated.
the thing is like, we like to look at women. Let's face, as guys, like, they're beautiful, and that's what we like to look at. But here's the real deal. Do you watch the women? Do you pay your ticket to go and watch the women dance around and not the game? Like, no. I go there to watch the football game. I go there to root for my team or another team or whatever because I love football.
Yep.
I never, ever stare at the cheerleaders and watch them. Like, I don't. Even at halftime, I'm going to get a beer. Sorry.
Yeah, halftime.
You know what I mean?
That's what I mean when they're doing their whole
So it's
shtick
like,
or whatever.
on
They're
it,
going to get
as a football fan, like, if I'm being realistic, stop. Why do you have that position employed? Like,
Yeah.
to me, it doesn't make any sense at all.
Yep.
That's not what's drawing anybody there. Maybe early on in the 60s, that was the thing.
Yeah.
But
they have a whole lot.
But I
so
mean,
there
come
you go.
on. You know?
And it was just maybe tradition why some of them carried
That's
on. but-
that's really why. And
Yeah.
and not all teams have them anymore.
no.
There's only, like, I don't know, like, maybe
I think there's
little
only
over
10 or something like that. I don't think there's
There's
a
that?
lot. I don't think there's
Oh,
a whole
okay.
lot. I don't think
I
there's a
have
whole
no
lot.
idea. I have not done my cheerleading
Maybe
And then-
I
research.
forgot I've done research on that a couple years ago when we were in our early days of this show because again they were filing a lawsuit the way we were mistreated. The 49ers, cheerleaders were part of it.
Yep.
you still got to
Because they're
keep
used
the
as
mascots out.
ambassadors, but again, as the representatives of their team or whatever. But some weren't couldn't leave the stadium for certain things. They had to stay there for things. It was just weird that they were making them go through.
Some of the things that they had to go through was a little crazy.
It was a little crazy.
And then,
locking
like,
them
the
down.
extended amount of time, like, if there's an event, they can't, like, call in.
Oh,
they
yeah,
have
yeah,
to
yeah,
go.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's almost like they're in the military in a sense, and they're like, oh, you do what you're told.
Yeah. But back to some of the beginning of the season now starting here.
Yes,
Some of the
sir.
stuff.
Yeah.
How about let's talk about some of
Craziness.
the even the trades that had happened even too. What about the Bears being so active in that trade to go and to get DJ Moore?
Yeah.
And trading away their number 1 pick, but really banking in on picks from the Carolina Panthers. And on the flip side of that, the Panthers. What do you see in here and the logic behind what they're going for?
I mean, here's the thing: is like we've seen regime changes, right? So for the Colts, Frank Reich, for the Panthers, Frank Reich, now the new head coach, formerly of the Colts, obviously.
Yep.
But now he wants his guy. Any kind of new coach that comes in wants their guy, especially if there's nobody proven yet. You know what I mean? Matt Corral got drafted last year, so a lot of people were under assumption like, oh, Frank Reich's going to come in, maybe he'll tutor Matt Corral, and let's see what they can do. But that's not his guy. So he has him, but will he use him? And this is the kind of perplexing thing is like with the Panthers doing this trade, they gave up a lot, and I expected it to be a lot because when you're picking number 1 overall, and the way draft picks are valued nowadays, they're highly valued. So you're going to have to give up a lot. Coming from 9 to 1, I was like, well, let's see what happens. Got to be 2 1s at least. You know what I mean? And then the conversation goes from there. This is what's interesting, though, is this is the first time in a while that I've witnessed for moving up in terms of compensation. They gave up a first this year, a first next year.
Yep.
A second this year, and then is it a second next year or a third?
That's a second next
second
year.
next
as
year.
well, and then DJ Moore,
And
obviously.
then DJ Moore,
Number 1 wide receiver.
a number 1 wide receiver, but not at the end of his career.
Nope,
He's still in his prime.
Yeah.
So they pulled off not just draft picks for
Yeah.
compensation, but they got a player that is going to grow with Justin Fields. That's the key. Now you have a legitimate number 1 to go with a guy like Darnell Mooney, who's now going to thrive, to be honest, because now he's not the only deep threat guy. Now you have DJ Moore, Darnell Mooney. He's going to come to life, and then they're going to build upon that. So with these multiple draft picks that Chicago has now, and they're going to be able to, if they want to, they can trade back more, get more picks. They can go up in the draft in the second round, whatever they choose. They're in the driver's seat right now because not only in the draft they're in the driver's seat, but free agency, they had the most cap space coming in, made 3, I believe, big signings for Chicago, and they are on their way. If they hit in the draft with these draft picks that they have or manipulate the draft in any fashion, moving up or down, to get their guys, this franchise could turn around relatively quickly. We've seen them sign Nate Davis, I think, at guard, a much-needed position for them. I still think I don't know what they're going to do, obviously, but this draft, there's a couple tackles that you could get in the first 2 rounds that are starter-worthy that you could really nail down, upgrade your offensive line to help Justin Fields. Not so now he doesn't have to run anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, give him a real chance.
And then you have these weapons that he can throw the ball to and use his legs. That's going to make that offense good already. And defensively, build the rest of the draft that way.
Right.
I mean, so I think for Chicago, humongous win. Humongous win. For the Colts, or I keep saying the Colts. For the Panthers, because I keep thinking of Frank Reich.
No, I hear you.
For the Panthers, though, and Frank Reich in the new regime, like they said, you know what? I'm not buying Matt Corral. I saw enough tape on him in college. He's not my guy. I need my guy. And this year, that guy could either be, since they trade up to 1, they're going to get their quarterback for the future. So it's either going to be Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud. That's it. Those are the 2 that you can only debate against.
If I had to take a guess.
I will be baffled. I will be shocked, and I will have to drink 5 shots if I see Anthony Richardson get drafted number 1 overall with the Panthers.
That would be horrible.
And
that
that's
would be great to see, though. I mean, again, what are we doing draft night here?
But
I
here's,
don't like Anthony
listen,
Richardson.
but here's the storyline, guys. If Anthony Richardson is drafted, in fact, to the Panthers, it's the reincarnation of Cam Newton because that's what he is.
Yeah. And look at his career completion percentage. In college, it's barely above 50%.
Yep.
That's it. And that's in college. I'm pretty sure Cam's was probably better than that. I'd have to look. I haven't done enough research into that myself.
We're not there yet.
Yeah,
but-
we're not into
Right.
looking at college prospects.
But I'm
I've
just
done
saying-
my initial looks.
I'm just saying how funny it would be.
Yeah, I mean, and you could see here now that Chicago obviously saw something, and we all did, I think, towards the tail end of that season last year that, hey, wait, even though these guys, started selling off mainly on defense, they just
Right.
started selling off,
veterans,
boom, boom,
yeah.
boom, 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 bye, bye, bye.
Right.
This offense was actually starting to turn around and do something. You're like, wow, now you guys decided to do something, and you've seen this before when you're like, oh, these guys are doing a fire sale. And it actually, they kind of got better, but you start to see, Justin Fields starting to make some things happen. This offense work. Yep. You don't need the David Montgomery anymore. Herbert was doing great here in the backfield. So just hang on to him. Say a piece to freaking Montgomery. And now Chase Claypool now moving to a slot spot, or at least not having to be that number 2 on the other side. Now you got DJ Moore and you've got, Darnell Mooney.
It's going to be
now that
interesting.
could open it up for him a little bit more. And then, like you said, maybe do some more drafting, but maybe they go heavily on some defense too.
They will.
They
will.
So that would help balance out this team.
Offensive line, too, is key. Like, I expect them to go early and attack that offensive line in the draft. As long as they don't go out and sign. Like, who knows? Orlando Brown is still out there in free agency. Yeah. Like, if Chicago was able to, land him right now, we're talking that this offense is going to be completely turned around, and they still got the draft to go.
Yeah, but even on the other side, for me, for Carolina, again, you do, like I talked about it with Cody, you have to give up a lot to get that
You
first.
have to.
We talked about it. But, I mean, if you're really that sold on one of these quarterbacks, that helps you for now, but you just mortgaged a lot, to move up for that. And
you have to.
How does that help you rebuild at this point? Because I don't think they're a contender, with anything. Surprisingly enough, a team, same way, they were like selling everybody off because they're like, oh, we're hitting a reset button. But started to do better sometimes, without, Christian McCaffrey and stuff like that, and, without
Walker.
the Robbie Anderson anymore there, so they were doing better. But
they're like, oh, no.
but you've got your new franchise quarterback that you're hoping with, but trying to build, I say probably then I guess with free agents at this point, that they might find on cuts, waiver wire pickups, you know what I mean?
I mean, to be honest, with this team though, they're still young. They're one of the younger teams in football, and they've built that defense through the draft as far as the Panthers go.
Defense is
so,
solid.
But that's the thing is now you flip the script this year. They're going to get their quarterback. Yes, they're going to miss on the first couple of rounds this year, but that from third round on, they're going to be attacking offense. They're going to try to make this as good as they possibly can.
That's where Miles Sanders went to now, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, he signed a
Reunited with
4-year
Frank
deal,
Reich,
right?
you know what I mean? So another familiar guy here to help teach the system and be a steady running back.
I mean, as far as quarterback, yes, they're going to go through their bumps and bruises as we know any rookie does. But I think this is the plan long term. They're going to get their quarterback now. It's the first year Frank Reich has taken over, so he has time. Now you're going to draft a quarterback and build around him and build and keep building in the future. So, yes, you're right. Are they going to be a contender? Absolutely not in the division. They are in rebuild mode. So, and they've made that very well known. So, if they make the right moves, obviously after if they take the right guy for them, it'll remain to be seen in the future, but I think they've decided, like you said, hit the reset button. Let's start over. We have a new coach, new regime, and let's see where we can take this thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Cody, you got anything to add on that one?
I was just looking up Miles Sanders' contract just because we brought it up briefly. It is 4 years, $25 million, by the way. And I don't know what they're planning on with that backfield because obviously you still have Chuba Hubbard. You still have Deonta Foreman coming off.
Yeah, so
his big year.
Dude,
and now you bring Sanders in.
Yeah.
Maybe
That's
they
nice.
want like a Earth, Wind, and Fire kind
Yes.
of three-headed giant backfield.
Yep.
So you have 3 guys who can all produce in different ways.
Yep.
Absolutely. And I like that signing for them.
Yeah.
Because now, just like you mentioned, they're going to have a trio-headed running backs, and all of them do different things.
Yeah.
So they're going to be able to have different situations come up, and they're like, okay, well, this guy's the best one for this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just play with it.
Yeah, I think one other thing that I think people were trying to keep a finger on the pulse with too, I think, is Baker Mayfield. Situation what was going to happen with him because again, L.A. they've gone into a whole fire sale too, getting rid of people. We didn't even talk about Ramsey that much though, but he went.
Yep.
And maybe we'll touch on that a little bit too. But people were wondering what happened because in that debut with the Rams, he looked really good for everybody. Even getting that comeback, of course, the Raiders helped in that comeback
like 1
absolutely
day's
in that
notice.
whole thing, and it kind
Thank
of
you, Patrick
blew
Graham.
it for them. And that was enough though to get him another chance here. Where was it going to go? We've heard of different rumors here, but now there he is with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, now Tom Brady-less. But what does that do for that franchise and for his career? I mean, at this point, it's probably not his best wide receiving core that he's had, but close though. I mean, he's got some good wide receivers there still right there with Tampa. How can they do here under Todd Bowles with Baker Mayfield here? What can that do for his career?
Well, Todd Bowles before as a head coach, back with the Jets, and he was brought in mainly because he's one of the better defensive-minded coaches. He was supposed to revamp that Jets defense, and it never happened. It never transpired, never got better. Was always just flatlined. You know what I mean? There was no spark there. So, and I'll say this: I don't see him as a head coach. He is only a D coordinator.
Yeah,
that's what he's really good at.
You could see it.
Let him focus on the defensive side of the ball, and he's going to help your defense immensely. But now that they've decided to put him in the head coaching seat, I don't buy it. I don't think Tampa Bay is going to be any better for it. I think it's just a a tipping point for Tampa at this point where they're like, oh, stopgap head coach because we don't have an answer. You know what I mean? And they're, hey, he's familiar
and they
with
fired
the players.
Byron Leftwich. He was kind of the scapegoat for last year.
Which that's the crazy thing is how can he be the scapegoat?
And
really?
and even you still took the division still, but all of a sudden,
hey,
that's enough to get fired.
We don't want to tarnish Tom Brady's name, so guess what? You're fired.
It's got to be someone else.
It's got to be you.
Can't be Brady's.
And that's the thing is you look at the changeover now.
Yeah,
different offensive coordinator. It's going to be a different offense. Todd Bowles has nothing to do with that. So. Like, really, what are you getting? You're getting a glorified D coordinator that you insert at head coach and a guy that can't handle the head coaching seat. He just can't. He doesn't make good decisions when it comes time to make decisions. I've seen him with that blank stare of his with the little winter hat he has, like, barely on his head. And he's just like, what? Are we going for it or not? Kick. You know what I mean? The guy is just not all there. So don't get me wrong. He's a smart dude when it comes to defense, and that's kind of his thing. But for Tampa Bay going forward, obviously, change of the offense. Too many changes is not going to, signify success. And not to mention, you don't really have an answer at quarterback. Yes, you bring in Baker Mayfield. That's great. His contract, super cheap.
Oh, super cheap.
It's a proven. It's a 1 year prove it deal. The max of it will be $8 million. You know what I mean? And which is like a backup pay. You know what I mean? So if Baker beats out Kyle Trask. You know what I mean? They're a believer in Kyle Trask. They're hoping that he wins the job. But if he doesn't, and Baker does, he gets to prove it's an audition again for him. He gets to maybe prove that, like, hey, I still have something in me. I can be a starter in this league. Watch me prove it with now really good receivers. Yeah. Like Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. Like, that's a nice duo to be thrown to. And I think that's going to, bode well for Baker Mayfield. So, I mean, let's wait and see how this all hashes out. But Tampa Bay, you're in rebuild mode as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think this is the win-win deal all around. Tampa, didn't matter who they were getting at QB. They weren't going to be a Super Bowl team again. That just wasn't going to happen. And they get Baker, they get him cheap, so it's not affecting their cap. It's not a long-term commitment. It's easy for Baker. You get your shot. It's just as simple as that. Maybe he'll have a decent year. He can go on to be a backup somewhere else. Maybe another stopgap quarterback somewhere else. But
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I really wanted Baker Mayfield to join the Raiders. I mean,
it makes sense.
I wanted to see him headbutt Josh McDaniels before the game started. Yeah. Like, just knock him out. Yep. You know what I mean? That way he can't make any bad calls. So, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is. And that's why we love the offseason, right, guys? Like the craziness, the different people going all over different scenarios, different teams, and just to see where everybody lands. And here's the thing is I just noticed that I have the available players left. Mm-hmm. I got to ask this. I know you guys are going to be like, no way. But do you think that Carson Wentz signs to somebody as a backup this offseason? Or do you think that maybe nobody touches him? Because it's one of those situations where everybody's seen how he plays. He gets injured, and he's 30 years old. He's not a spring chicken anymore.
I don't think anybody touches him. I'll be the first one to say this. I think he's out there. We've seen this happen with a lot of the players that seem to be not exactly blacklisted, but you know, like even like with Cam Newton, where he wasn't looking very good when he was out there. Right. Yeah. He got multiple opportunities with other teams and didn't really show up. So teams are ready to walk away from that, especially because you look at what you've seen sign already. I talked to Cody about this earlier. Mm-hmm. We've already seen teams pick up Jarrett Stidham as a backup. Heineke just got a new job as a starter somewhere, you know, when Carson Wentz was supposed to be that starter, you know, for Washington, but Heineke gets a job somewhere else, you know what I mean, instead. So they're already looking at some of these other guys, and maybe Heineke's not a younger guy even too as well. He's the same age as whatchamacallit there, Carson Wentz. Yeah. But they'd rather even take a chance on him or even some of these other younger guys. I think there's even a greater chance that Jacoby Brissett finds a job before Carson
He already
Wentz
did.
does.
He
did, Well, there you go. See, even there. See?
Yeah, he signed earlier today.
Yeah, so there you go. See, I'm Nostradamus. I picked it out. There you go. I read the future.
Where do you think Orlando Brown goes?
Oh, gosh.
Orlando Brown's still out
tough.
there.
He's got to bring his number down or whatever ends up being.
That goes without saying, right?
What it is.
That goes without saying. He's 26 years old, still in his prime, right? But here's the interesting thing: is Orlando Brown. There has been from what I'm hearing, there's been a lot of teams that have called his agent, talked to him about contract, obviously, and what have you. But here's the interesting thing: a lot of teams are requesting him to move back to right tackle. Not left tackle.
Yep.
They're looking at right tackle. So those right tackle needy teams, think about Chicago. We talked about it earlier. You know, maybe they're one of those teams like, hey, we're ready to pay you, but you got to move to right tackle. Are you willing to do that? And here's the other thing is I heard on the radio earlier today, and I completely disagree with this notion that now in today's NFL, someone said, oh, well, if you're a right tackle, you're going to get paid less. I disagree with it.
Not right now.
Because now it's not like you had one pass rusher on the left side and like, oh, yeah, that's why you pay the left tackle the money because he's facing the better player. Now teams have really good teams have two great pass rushers on both sides. Yep. So you need to pay that right tackle more money now. So
you've seen it even with some of the contracts already. With some of the right tackles have been getting.
I don't think that's the case with Orlando Brown. If he is willing to move to right tackle, he's going to sign quickly. But I think that's kind of where teams are holding off at. Like, listen, we don't need a left, but we really do need a right tackle. We need you to move.
Yeah, he's more likely to get the money he wants if he just switches back to right.
Yep.
Well, that's why even when the Chiefs made the move here, and didn't do it, but they went out and got Juwan Taylor. I mean, with a decent deal that would have been close to maybe what Orlando would have been, but I mean, younger and everything, and still, at his prime, I think is a better opportunity for them instead of again trying to pay that veteran for being there and still on his last, leg or whatever.
Juwan Taylor's 25 years old, super young. Yeah. 4 years, $80 million, $20 million on average, which to me is kind of crazy. Like that's a lot of money. But $60 million of that deal is guaranteed. $40 million was paid out on signing. So that's kind of where they made it more cap friendly. He's going to make like $5 million or so this season. So that's nothing for a tackle. Yeah. I'm curious to know though, like if I go into and look at this like further breakdown in the future, I'm curious to know like what is in an ascending contract, because we've seen that happen with Tyreek Hill. That's kind of what the Chiefs did. They did it with Travis Kelce and those big contracts, they come back to haunt you when you backload them like that. So that's why obviously Hill got traded because he didn't want to take on that deal. But Juwan Taylor, that'll be interesting for them too.
Mike Tackett says PJ Walker to sign with the Bears.
Interesting. That's fantastic for PJ. Right? Great. You've heard it here first, everyone.
Yeah,
Breaking
Mike
news.
Jenkins here.
PJ
Oh,
Walker to the Bears.
Yeah.
Who,
Yep, groundbreaking.
I mean, honestly, it fits the offense. You know what I mean? Kind of like where they're headed towards with Justin Fields and his mobility.
Yeah.
PJ Walker brings that too. So, I mean, that's good for him.
Yeah, he showed he could play at a solid level.
Another former Panther, too.
And unlike his former teammates in the other league, that he's still hanging on in the NFL.
Yeah, right.
But
Have you
yeah,
guys
I mean-
watched any of the XFL at all this?
I haven't.
season?
I've only
I really
seen
haven't.
highlights. I haven't
Yeah.
watched an
I've watched a little bit of game.
myself
I was
yet.
intrigued. I was watching it. I didn't think it was bad.
Yeah, I get that sense from a lot of people that have watched
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
They're
yeah.
like, it's not bad. It's actually decent.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
a
yeah.
football
It's
alternative.
keeping me
Entertained.
and I'm I'm not just like, wow, these guys are just terrible. You know what I mean? I've watched it longer than I have with the USFL or whatever it was there. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, there's other free agents. We already talked on Adam Thielen. You know, oh my bad, he's 32. He's not 30. I thought he was 30. But Byron Jones, who recently got cut from the Dolphins, was brought in a year ago on a big contract. Was going to be their starting corner, but ends up getting a serious injury. A guy that is 30 years old, coming back from an injury like that, but was seen before his injury, was seen as one of these top corners in the league. Do you think he returns back to his status after injury at 30 and sign? He's got to sign somewhere, right?
It's weird because we've also seen him on like Twitter and stuff posting warning young players, don't take the painkillers that they offer you. It's gotten me to this point.
But he did anyway.
I'm not that fast anymore. I'm not explosive anymore. And, teams are going to look at that like, wow, this guy is advertising how bad he thinks he is. Like, why do we want him? Like,
The funny
he might
thing
be a
is-
solid, like, veteran number 2 corner. He's not, I don't think he's going to return to being a number 1, maybe in that elite category kind of corner.
I don't think he'll be elite. You're right, but
Yeah.
I do think he's going to be better than what you have right now on your roster. You know what I mean?
Well, it could be like a late career, how like Terrence Newman was.
And
for
the
a
other
while
thing
there.
too is like same thing with the tweeting is they were mentioning Byron Jones. Like, oh, he even tweeted that he might not come back. He might just stay. He might retire, and that kind of scares teams when they hear that from players thinking about retiring or whatever. But for Byron Jones, and then he comes back with a tweet where people were questioning it, and he's like, "Oh no, I don't want to retire. I want to play." But you're contradicting, sir. You are basically saying, "Hey, don't take any medication that they give you. It's all terrible. I'm thinking about retiring. No, I still want to play." Is this guy all there? That's the other question. Mentally.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I mean. It's just him being socially active about that and stuff. You're just watching it unfold as it goes. And like you said, teams will just, walk away from that, I think.
Yeah.
Mike Tackett, here we go. We brought up the XFL, Joe. We
Yes,
opened up
here
Pandora's
he
box.
is.
Oh,
Here he goes.
That
He
bottom
says
one.
St.
Uh-oh.
Louis.
that bottom was
Oh.
huge.
There you go. He's got the breaking news. Breaking
Huge.
news. Here it
That's a
is.
big one.
Here it is.
There it is.
Yeah, Orlando
I gotta
Brown
hit
to
it up.
Cincy.
There we go. Breaking news. We bring it to you
Tackett
today.
is on the spot.
4
reporter.
years, $64 million deal, including a $31 million signing bonus, which is going to alleviate that cap space. Orlando Brown Jr., we were just talking about him,
Yep,
is
we did.
going to the Bengals.
Ooh,
This is
he called
big
it.
news to Cincinnati, and honestly, I mean, good for them. Like, this was a question last year. They addressed it, but now you're going to expect to see Lyle Collins get cut.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to be a free agent now out there, and I think this is better. You got an upgrade.
That's a big upgrade.
You got an upgrade at the right tackle spot, and that you also get younger. You know what I mean? So, I mean, great landing spot for Orlando Brown. He's looking to return to the Super Bowl, it seems like.
Yeah.
This Bengals team is built to win. So, let's see if they can get it together and ready up for
finally
next
finish
season.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep
Absolutely.
getting close.
Yeah, that's big for them, and that's what
Huge.
we even saw when they tried to attack the offensive line last year, and still he was getting, Joe Burrow getting rushed and sacked and everything. Still wasn't enough. So this is a big play for them, like you said, to keep him upright and healthy, and make another push to get maybe that, just get past that championship game and get to the Super Bowl again. I mean, they've been great these last 2 seasons. especially even too beginning in the season last year, it looked like, oh man, what's going on with the Bengals? Were they like a one and done type of deal? But then they got their shit together and they made a push at the end and really made it a nice run in the playoffs again and showed that they really were proven to be there. And this is that next step to keep him upright and move forward.
Couple of two more players that I want to get to. Darius Slay just got recently cut from the Eagles.
Yes.
Pro
Did
Bowl
see
corner.
that.
I mean, what can you say about him? He's amazing.
Yeah.
Even at his age, he's still one of the best corners in the league. Was making a lot of money. Now he's still going to get paid his guarantees, but there's definitely corners. There was people out there saying, "Come back to Detroit" and everything. This guy is going to be sought after. I'm just kind of curious where he ends up going because a guy of his caliber usually wants a lot of money. Now, what teams have a lot of money? Well, we already know Chicago has a lot of money, so they could add to their arsenal at the cornerback position. But also, there's a few other teams like the Colts have a little bit of money that they could kind of bring in. They traded Stephon Gilmore away.
Yeah.
No more Gilmore. Do they bring in another vet like him? That's something to watch. The Bengals, listen, they pulled off a huge deal right now with Orlando.
Yeah.
What's to say they shore up that cornerback spot? Don't bring Eli Apple back. Bring this guy there. You bring Darius Slay there.
Yeah.
That's not even a huge upgrade. It's better than that. But you got other teams that are there. Like Falcons have the second most cap space right now. That's another team that lost a corner. Isaiah Oliver leaves.
Yep.
Maybe he goes there. Cardinals, I know, are looking for a corner after Byron Murphy left to go to the Vikings.
Yep.
So there's definitely a lot of teams in need of that position. It's going to be, obviously, it's up to him where he's going to want to go.
Yeah.
But, man, there's no shortage of teams that need a corner.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's something to definitely look at. And that's the thing, some of these cap casualties, whatever they may be, I think are going to be interesting when you see them fall on some of these other different teams and where do they fall.
Right.
And we're only at the start of it still.
Oh,
yeah.
Isn't this the crazy?
It's
Here's the
been
crazy
crazy.
thing is like us as fans, we want to see our team go sign guys. You know what I mean? We want to see them improve the roster.
Yeah, get aggressive.
But we want to see it instantly. You know what I mean? We want to see the instant results, but it doesn't happen like that. There's a lot of negotiation, and then sometimes they're competing with other teams for a guy. So it takes longer. Another guy that is polarizing in the media is Ezekiel Elliott gets cut.
Yeah, right.
Ezekiel Elliott,
Cowboys fans rejoice.
Listen,
no
they
longer
made
being
they made the right decision.
Yeah.
Tony Pollard is the guy. We knew this,
Yes.
and it just took the Cowboys a little longer to realize it. But Zeke now, free agent. Landing spots, guys. It's intriguing because this is a guy that is seen as a power back. You know what I mean? With a little bit of speed, but he doesn't make you miss. He's just going to run through you. So
Mike
where
Tackett
do you
says
think he might go?
here with the just real quick, he just says Jesse Bates cut helped Cincinnati too. So that helped them with the cap money.
Yeah.
So, that was big because he
Yeah,
was
for
the
sure.
guy that they tagged last year who wanted to get a deal.
Jesse Bates ends up going to the Falcons.
Yeah.
Much needed.
Big
So-
time.
Yeah.
But Zeke,
yeah.
that's a tough one for me again because he's the
Running back
one
needy
guy that
teams.
messed it. You see the memes out there. He messed it up for all running backs out there trying to get paid because he got paid and hasn't done squat.
He's not going to get paid this time.
And he's not.
Nope.
So what's the number going to be? Who needs somebody like him at this point? Because we've seen a lot of these teams go with multiple backs. Like Cody's trying to say,
They're
into
all
the
doing
wind
that
and
now.
fire. So they don't value that one type of
The
back
featured
usually.
guy, yeah.
So where would it be?
I
that
think
would
that
be friendly for them.
Possibilities, to be honest, is endless for Zeke because here's the thing: is he can fit in a lot of different offenses. You look at, and let's just look interdivision. Let's just say what it is. Obviously, not Giants. They're locked into Barkley. He's the guy. You know what I mean?
Yep, and
Yeah,
they
we
do
got
have
Barkley,
Matt
Breida.
Breida too.
But-
So
What about the Eagles right now with losing Miles Sanders? You bring in Zeke.
They already brought in Rashad Penny though.
Rashad.
Not that
Yeah,
he's
but
amazing,
he's not.
But
But I'm like, I think Zeke would be a great addition to the Eagles now because,
they'd have to cut one of their guys they already at least had, like Gainwell and Scott.
and they would. You know what I mean? Because you think
knows?
about a guy who can move the pile. And you don't need to push Jalen Hurts anymore into the pile. You can just give it to him. So that's one team off the rip. Washington, I know, needs backs. You know what I mean? And that's just interdivision. Now you think outside, it's like, okay, there's other teams that could utilize his services. Look at Cincy. How long? Listen, we don't even know what.
They
We
did just let P. Ryan walk.
we don't.
So.
Well, Samaj P. Ryan signed elsewhere.
Yeah.
So, and then Joe Mixon with his issues, that he's going to have to go to court for. Like, who knows what's going to happen with his situation? If you lose Mixon for any kind of extended time, you got to have a plan B.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of scenarios.
Because, I mean, I even, see scenarios with a bunch of different teams. I don't think it's out of the realm to even see the Patriots go for him even too, because the way they move things around with running backs. And again, Damian Harris not with them anymore.
Free agent.
And again, yeah.
And so isn't their other running back too that was doing really well.
Ramondre?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I didn't know.
And
he was a free
so
agent.
again, then
Both
they've
were free
known to
agents.
bring some of these guys that but now we'll get them there with Juju Smith-Schuster again, a rehash guy that's moved from a couple teams. They still think they could find that bottle of juice that's in there with them still, and got him on the low. You know what I'm saying, and bring him in. And see what happens.
And that's the thing. I think,
again, it'll be that sneaky move when you all of a sudden have a guy like you.
Right.
Not that Juju's a number one or anything, but you got Juju here, and then you've got this guy as your running back now too. I mean, it's kind of like, oh man, they kind of didn't miss a step now in a sense.
I mean,
a little bit, you know what I'm saying?
And it goes beyond that. Look at like Falcons could use another one. They got Tyler Algier, who actually is panning out for them.
Yeah.
But maybe take a little bit off of. Oh man, I forgot his Cordell Patterson.
Cordell Patterson, yeah.
Maybe take a little bit off of his shoulders, bring in Zeke, and now you got three-headed monster kind of, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And Cardinals, they've had James Conner for some years, and he's been doing great.
Yeah.
But imagine that kind of duo, both physical backs pounding the hell out of you every week.
Yeah, that would be hard.
That could
for
be nice.
defenses.
And Patriots, I have to absolutely agree with you that, because I was thinking about other places that he might go. Patriots came to mind because they need it. It's a need, and if they wait long enough, where his number comes down, they'll pull it. It'll be a Patriot savvy move.
That's what
You know what I mean?
Cheap.
Absolutely. What do you guys think about David Montgomery going to Detroit? I think it's a great move. I think this is a great move. Interdivision. He gets to play his former team.
Yeah.
And he's, to be honest, he's like one of those underrated running backs that like nobody really goes out of their way to talk about. This guy is a legit running back. Guy does everything well.
Yeah.
So for him to go there with DeAndre Swift, I like it. I like that duo there.
I think it's good too that the fact that just he doesn't have to carry a workload and things like that too.
Oh,
I
he
think
didn't
to
last
go
year.
back for I know he didn't, but I'm just saying it's like because he would get injured and then that's when you see Herbert do well. So then when you wait for him to come back, and then he play and then Herbert was actually I think running better at that point. So now him to get this other spot with Detroit to play his former team and then to go back and forth with Swift, I think is a nice setup there with him. So
Yeah, I think he's a very good running back. He does everything very well. I don't see him as great at like any one thing, but he's not bad at anything. So last season,
Really
I
good
was
player.
crying the whole time. I'm like, Herbert needs to be the starter. Have Montgomery as your complimentary guy, and that's what he's going to be when he goes to Detroit. He's going to be that change of pace back. Swift
Right.
gets injured all the time. So he'll have plenty of games where he's got to be the number one. I hope I can see maybe a little bit more explosiveness out of him. That was something that I just felt was lacking last season.
The thing the thing that I'll say about Swift is last year he was fully healthy. He wasn't allowed to play. It was like he come in on weird downs. Jamal Williams was pretty much the starting caliber running back all year, and I was kind of confused by it because when Swift came in, you noticed the difference. Like he got the ball in his hands, he just made guys miss. He outran guys. He was just that much better of a back than Williams. So I don't know if he's like maybe in the doghouse, in Detroit or what have you, but I got to wonder now that they added Montgomery, like, does that make Swift available at this point? Like, are they going to move on from him? Because to me, last year,
I know what you're saying though.
Last
because we
year, it
did wanna
looked
see him
awfully
more.
suspicious. Like, why is he not getting in if he's healthy? Like, why is he not being the starter or at least getting the bulk of the carries?
It's not quite to the same, I guess, magnitude. But it almost kind of reminded me of back when Derrick Henry was still new on the Titans and when Deion Lewis was there. We're like, oh, this Derrick Henry guy's awesome, but why is Deion Lewis playing 70% of the downs?
Exactly.
Like, what's going on?
Yes.
I think we got one last comment
We
from
got
Mike Tack. He
Mike,
said,
what's up, bud?
how excited are you guys to watch Antonio Brown crash and burn the Empire?
I am very intrigued.
Go crazy.
Listen,
Go crazy.
I think Antonio Brown
Go crazy.
is-
Yeah.
he's one of those like very colorful characters that is also losing his mind. Like
Yep. I think
he
it's
does
lost.
he
lost
does
it a
like
while ago.
so many sporadic things. It's unbelievable. So I can't wait to meet him in downtown Albany.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Watching him party in bars and stuff like, you know,
Little does he know there are no party
I think
bars. In Albany
he's
now,
gonna
right?
make it
Yeah,
a
he
party.
might now,
He's like,
you know?
everybody, let's go.
Yeah, right? Yeah, it's interesting on both aspects, I think, and him joining with the team, and then the team itself bringing in an Antonio Brown, a team that's been championship caliber for the last couple of seasons,
Yep.
even in back, the
Doing their
other
thing.
league before they joined the NAL.
Yep.
Looking to make another run this year, especially by eliminating competition with the Lions here. They just did with Columbus. But now getting Antonio Brown to join you to bring that sideshow in, it seems awful odd to me. Were they really struggling money-wise to keep going? Like, I'm not sure because, again, we saw what happened with ticket sales last year. To be honest about the Albany Empire, they are literally giving tickets away because they started off the season charging for children and every adults and everything. And then within 2 games, I think they went to, all right, kids are free. All you kids, come on in for free. As long as an adult's with you, come on in. And then they even did giveaway. And they're handing out vouchers here. Here's your night, boom, boom, blah. So now maybe this is what we're seeing with this league, maybe, that it needs somebody like a backer like this. We saw even touchdown Eddie Brown there with them
His
and
dad,
stuff,
their
to be
uncle.
part of it. And maybe they needed that to help regenerate some revenue and maybe get interest in people going because, Joe, from last year's championship to this past one, the difference of people at that championship game was drastic, I think. Don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
The first time we went to their championship 2 years
Absolutely.
ago and then this last one?
Oh, yeah.
It was different.
Well, you got to remember, it was a different way to play.
Yeah.
Like you go 2 seasons ago,
went
and it was like
full
there
teams.
was offense and defense and
yeah.
separate. Now this past year was way different because now you had to have versatile players because
Iron Man on
guys
both
that could play both sides. So because they had to cut down on the roster. So I mean, very difference in plays, and they still got the job done.
Yeah, they did. They
Tremendous.
make it interesting.
I mean,
but it was
absolutely.
Yeah,
Like-
it should be cool. We'll see what
Hey,
happens. I
and
know Albany's
I
gonna
think
like
they
it.
listened to us about changing, their defensive scheme a little bit. I
Yeah,
think
they did.
Started looking at Brandon Cisse there. Say, hey, get after it, man. You got to do something.
Absolutely. All right. As Mike Tackett says, Matt Ryan to San Francisco makes sense. Hooking up with Kyle Shanahan again. Yeah,
It makes
Yeah,
sense.
it does.
Bring him in as
Again,
a
because
mentor quarterback.
there's different questions out there. Again, we've seen what some of these teams have done, and now you look at some of the teams that have moved on from quarterbacks, and we know that they were already ready to move on last year with Trey Lance. So
Yep.
now you're saying, well, this year most likely it's the same same idea, right? It's going to do the same thing. So, but to bring in that veteran like Matt Ryan to sit behind a guy, which he's shown that he can be that guy, say, I'm cool with that, sitting back, talking to these guys, trying to get, be that guy,
I think he would be by now.
You know what I mean?
After the
last
past year.
yeah, absolutely. That humbled the hell out of you right there,
hitting
right?
him up at this
I will
point.
say that I completely agree with you, Mike. Matt Ryan to Frisco makes way too much sense, to be honest. And this is we were kind of debating that, right? Like Brock Purdy, when is he going to be able to come back? It's not looking. It's going to be a
Yeah.
long
You don't
process.
know when that's
He's going to be
healing
back. Probably after week 6 or so is when he's going to be back next season, as long as everything goes well. He had successful surgery, we hear, so that's good. But Trey Lance has been this enigma for San Fran. Listen, you traded up to 3rd overall, you drafted him. Now you have to prove, Kyle Shanahan and company got to prove that he is their franchise quarterback. But if you add a guy like Matt Ryan, that kind of alleviates, like Jimmy G did.
Yeah,
It alleviates that pressure. Like if Trey Lance doesn't work, Matt Ryan could run our system. Matt Ryan would be successful with our system. He's not a running quarterback, obviously, so that takes a little bit away. But a guy that can tutor Trey Lance, a guy that can help with the
Brock
growth
Purdy
of him
too as well.
And Brock Purdy is already kind of like
yeah.
days and nights past a rookie. You know what I mean? Like that was the most impressive thing that I saw, that as a rookie, the guy had a veteran brain. You know what I mean? A guy that would just stay completely poised in the pocket, didn't let anything bother him. And that to me was like amazing. So for Brock Purdy, as long as he can come back healthy, be able to develop that arm strength again. And
Tommy John's tough.
it's really tough. So let's see how he comes back. But Matt Ryan, Mike is absolutely right. Like, that makes way too much sense, and you can get him on the cheap at this point. 37 years old, everybody. He's not spring chicken.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think he'll sign before Carson Wentz too, as well. I mean,
You've heard it
makes
here
more
first,
sense.
everyone.
There you go. Mike Tackett's on it.
Patriots landed James Robinson, former running back of the Jets and Jags.
That's not a bad little
2-year
under-the-radar
deal.
signing.
Let's see, was it
We were
2
just talking about running back that they were
2-year
going
deal?
to go for a running back.
up to $8 million. That's incentive laden. So
Yeah,
basically, $4 million a year. It's nothing.
dirt.
But this is it's kind of a Patriot move.
Yep.
This is a guy that is still young in his prime. He's had issues the past couple of years with injuries. Let's see if he can come back healthy. And who knows? Maybe they catch lightning in a bottle on a very, very low contract.
Yeah, absolutely. But hey, there's plenty to come, Joe, Cody. I mean,
Yes.
it's been crazy. We've been
Love
talking
it.
about it the past week while we've been trying
Love
to
it.
prep for the show and everything and get back into the swing of things. But we're excited about it. The NFL season is going to come before you even know it. You know, it's so fast. And then, again, pretty soon it's going to be April. And we're talking draft, baby. You know, draft parties.
I'm excited.
You
Start my
know, rookies,
research.
everything else. Yep. Doing the research. It's going to be a lot of fun.
A lot of fun, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hey, guys, make sure you tune in, man. Listen, we are amazing here with draft coverage. Now we have another scout in Cody, because I know he does the
Oh,
scouting
he
too.
does.
So we're going to be on top of this
Finally
thing.
have a point to my research. I did.
There you go. Yeah, right.
But research is undergoing right now. We're trying to figure some things out. And listen, if you're new to the show, do us a huge favor. Help us grow this football community of ours. Become a know-it-all. Head over to YouTube. Search us up, Football on the No Show. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button. Hit the share button. Also hit that notification bell to let you guys know when we go live. We are live here every Wednesday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. We'd love you to swing by. Drop a comment below. We'll give you a shout-out. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. That's what it's about. The best NFL talk and most interactive show there is right here. Football on the No.
Absolutely. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday nights for more Football on the No with Jim and Joe.